Okay.
Um, and so here's a part of this, and you can use this.
We're rolling, just so you know. So.
Oh, we are rolling?
Yeah, but it's okay. This is like
talk.
behind the scenes stuff, but just don't say anything you wouldn't want people to know.
Right. So
you could use this, yeah.
Right. The first thing, and you can go with this. The first thing the guide's going to tell you if you're studying for the guide test is to memorize the order of battle.
Right.
But the second thing they're going to say is you need to know the battlefield.
Yes.
All right. And I put this together not because of that, but more of a perspective. I'd already done a program on logistics. So, what about infrastructure? And that's a fancy term for what do these soldiers see when they get here?
Right.
Right. And look, all of them, and I'll repeat this, all of them, from the lieutenants that came out of West Point, to the corps commanders. To pass out of West Point, you had to pass the drawing class. You had to draw maps. Right?
Okay.
And so, with that said, what they're basically doing is first off, here's what's here. Now, how are you going to use it?
Right.
Right. And so that brings in all the bits and pieces of this. Everything from the mountains, the streams, right? This stuff's all been on the test before, too. It's not like anything I'm bringing up is new.
Right.
But you know how it is, too. If you make a list of 10 things that you think are on the test, one of them will be there.
Right.
Right?
Of course.
But you still have to know everything on the list because you don't know which one of the 10 it is. So bits and pieces of that. So we say, which one of these has a headset and a microphone? Is that good?
So I don't even know if that one's plugged in yet. You'd rather use that one?
Yeah, that way I'm not messing with.
I don't have to keep yelling at you.
Right.
Okay. Let me set it up there for you. So we'll do number 4.
Now, and if they don't know, if you go to Library of Congress and you search Civil War maps and you search Gettysburg, then you get 130 plus maps, which you can get lost in. But for us, they can find the Warren map and the 1858 Adams County map.
Right.
And of course that's a map that is available to the Confederates.
That was what an advertising map, wasn't
right,
it?
Yeah.
Originally.
Mm-hmm.
All right, go ahead, pick that up there. I gotta do some tests.
And then we can talk about shoes because everybody that owned a farm was a part-time shoemaker because he wasn't good at anything else. Right? Yeah. That's kind of how that works itself out.
So here should be that one there.
Things I'll forget later.
Have to set that up and hold on now. I believe
voice.
It's a dynamic. Hold on, not yet. Go ahead, talk.
I have your voice. I'm good.
All right, keep talking.
So, we'll go through this one. I want to start out with Civil War battles. Okay. All right, and I'll go down. Manassas or Bull Run, right, and just go down all the water names, and then flip over what rivers are next to battles, and that kind of covers the West, but that gets everybody in the frame of mind of water being one of the logistics issues or one of the infrastructure issues that the Army needs. Where they're at, Rock Creek is, from where we're at now on Baltimore Street, Rock Creek is to our east and our south, Marsh Creek is to our west and our south, and then the Confederates have a bonus with Willoughby Run. So they're going to be able to use both water sources. Okay. Right. And of course, and the guides, you're testing one of the themes that seems to be common for an auto test is high ground. Right. But so we have to think a little bit more about that.
Okay.
Cemetery Hill, right? And we'll notice if we read into the battle, that's going to be a Signal Corps station. Right. So where else is the Signal Corps? Signal Corps is on the mountain above
Jack's
Emmitsburg,
Mountain.
right? Mm-hmm. The Indian Lookout,
mm-hmm.
right? And then from Indian Lookout, what can he see? Well, in a good day, they can see Tawny Town on a hill and the church steeple. Right?
From Jack's Mountain or from
Indian Lookout. From Indian Lookout.
No, I've never heard of Indian Lookout. Where's that?
Okay, so that is the trail above the Mother Seton Shrine.
Okay.
So that's the mountain above.
Oh, all right.
Okay. All right, so you just take, if you ever get a chance.
But that's not Jack's Mountain.
I am, and don't bring that up because I'm not really sure.
Okay.
About the Jack's Mountain thing.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I know generally where that is, but no one's ever pointed and said that specifically.
Right.
Because there's a bunch of different mountains in that
There's
range.
There's 3 of them
there.
there.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Now there's another point too, and is it the long range? And is it all of them? Because if you Google Jack's Mountain, Pennsylvania, they're going to take you to this ridge up at Harrisburg. Because this ridge goes here up to the west of Harrisburg.
Yeah.
Right, and so they call it up the, in Harrisburg, they're calling all this Jack's Mountain. So that doesn't make any sense either.
Oh, that's crazy.
Right,
talk.
but now, where is this Liberty, the ski resort?
Yeah.
All right. Now,
but that's not Jack's Mountain.
No, I don't think. But
it's near there.
Right, and but the mountain above the Seton Shrine, Emmitsburg.
Okay.
All right, and if you go up there, Indian Lookout, so we're going to say that goes back to that time. All right, if you get a chance to, the trail's closed a lot, so it's a permission issue and so on. I've gone up there with a couple of tours. One of the tours was with Dean.
Okay.
All right, and he was, well, we were all beat. He wasn't.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
He's got energy, that guy.
He does. So anyway, from up there, you can clearly see the Pennsylvania Monument, right? And of course, where's the Signal Corps? Signal Corps on Cemetery Hill. You can clearly see that.
Okay.
Right? You can see the Regulars Monument from up there.
Right.
All right, but then you flip and look the other way, you should be able to see Tawny Town. And that is what, that's what they're using. That's how Reynolds and then Howard is communicating with Meade.
Okay.
From one boom boom, if we follow the Signal Corps story right, but anyway, the infrastructure is it's there,
right?
All right, and we can go. It's there. We see it. We can use it, and we use it. We forget to that Professor Jacobs on July 1st takes cavalry up to the top of the old main hall for the college.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And oh my gosh, are we going to miss a scene with Reynolds riding up to Buford when he's in the cupola of the seminary?
Right.
All right. But here again, they're able to communicate.
Yeah.
All right. And not to, maybe that's another thing, or somebody, the Signal Corps into this, where, obviously then we get Warren. He sends Warren down, to hear the peppering at Yonder Hill. Warren takes a road, a logging road that goes up the backside of the hill.
Right.
And obviously he sees there's no parking. But he has to rush troops up there anyway. All right. I'll use that.
Yeah.
Don't let that. We won't waste that one.
No. All right, so let's get it going so we don't waste everything on the pre-talk here. Hello, Chris. Hello, John. Hello, David. Oh, David from England. So we got somebody from England watching us today. All right, so this is the recording session. We haven't an episode that'll come. I'm giving you a little taste, and all that jazz. So, all right. Once this is finished, though, it's going to go private, or not private, but it goes unlisted, and it's available to our first lieutenants only over on Patreon. So if you say, oh, I'm going to leave this and come back later and finish it, you're going to have to wait until either it comes out for free, which will be maybe a year from now, or you can go and listen to it on Patreon and catch it a lot sooner. If you're a first lieutenant, you can watch it right away. All right, so let's get rolling with all of this.
Gettysburg Museum of History Studios. You're listening to Addressing Gettysburg.
Hello, patrons, and welcome to this episode of Addressing Gettysburg. Today, we are talking with an old friend of ours, and I don't mean chronologically old, but but he's we've known him for a while. He's been on the show since the beginning. And he seems to be a fan favorite. Everybody loves when Ken Rich is on, and he's on today. And we're talking, what are we calling this? I have Gettysburg, a place built for war. What do you think of that title?
That's great. Okay. I mean, and then we can subtitle it, what do the soldiers see?
Okay.
And that becomes a big part of the story. But we're talking about infrastructure.
Right. Okay.
Right? And that we're going to use that as a fancy term for what's there for the soldiers to use.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And then if you're a logistics follower, you get an idea of the logistics part of bringing them here. And I'm reminded about those officers out there, North and South. They all graduated from West Point, right? And one of the big classes there, and all the graduates have to pass this, is the drawing class. All right. And of course, Whistler's there, but he's drawing his mother, not the maps, right? That's why he doesn't graduate.
Right.
But with that said, is that what do they see? And of course, they're going to be topographical engineers.
Right.
All right. But then once they get past that point, how are they going to use what they saw? Right.
Okay.
And and today, your camper, and oh my gosh, you got that big camper that costs a ton, right? And you pull it in one of the campgrounds and you plug it in, right?
Right.
And that gives you electricity, and that gives you your cable, and then you hook up the water and maybe even the sewage, right?
Everything you need is right there in one hookup.
All right. Okay. Yeah. So at the point, the need of the soldiers might be less. All right. But one of the things that they need is water. All right. And then I'm reminded of another. Where is Fort Sumter? In a harbor.
Right.
All right. Water. And if I go through if I go through even a short list of the battles, Bull Run, Wilson's Creek, Ball's Bluff, or the Potomac, Fort Henry, Fort Donelson, Hampton Roads. That's of course, that's a naval battle. Shiloh, right? Shiloh Landing, Peninsula Campaign,
Antietam
Creek. All right, and look, we can go on all the way through the war. Vicksburg, Fort Wagner, the all quiet along the Rappahannock. I always love that chapter when it shows up in a book. I always love that one because I know something good's coming.
Right.
Okay? And then they're cussing about the Rapidan.
Right.
And so that's it. And if we turn around and take this another way, the water access. All right. First off, why do we need water? All right. We need water because there's 165,000 soldiers here. There's 55,000 horses and mules. All right. Those pesky cannon, right? Every time you sponge one of them down, you're probably using a half gallon of water.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Those are big sponges.
Right. And then the next part of that story is when it's over, the wounded. Water for care of the wounded. By July 2nd, the Union Corps hospitals have guards on Rock Creek so that everybody else can't use them.
Right.
Okay. Now, the Confederates, they have their hospital sites end up, and we'll go this again, their hospital sites end up on Marsh Creek. But they also have Willoughby Run available for horses and other uses.
Okay.
Right. So that's a good point of it. But if we just go through these rivers and battles, Fort Henry, Tennessee River, Fort Donelson and Cumberland River. All right. They're neighbors. Right. It's 10 miles apart. Right. And then Island Number 10, Mississippi. And now we made Grant a hero. Right. Shiloh on the Tennessee, Peninsula Campaign, James and York River, 7 days, Chickamauga. Chickahominy.
You got it.
I got it. I didn't do too good with pronunciations last time. I could have a rougher time this time, right?
You and Cam together would be a real hoot.
That's it, Fredericksburg, Rappahannock. Perryville is Chaplain River, Doctors Creek, Wilson's Creek. Chancellorsville, Rappahannock. All right. Knoxville, Holston River. Chickamauga is the Chickamauga River. You
mean Chickamauga?
Chickamauga, right? Chickamauga. Chickamauga.
I don't see an N in there, but okay.
That's that's kind of rough. I liked what one of the subtitles for that was River of Death.
Yes.
On some show, River of Death.
Yes.
Right? And then Chattanooga, Tennessee River, Wilderness, Rappahannock. Atlanta is Chattahoochee, Peachtree Creek. All right. And that, of course, that gets glorified in movies too, right? And Franklin and Nashville's the Cumberland. Franklin's the Harpeth. I don't know. I give that one up.
I'm not even trying that one.
Put that one in comments, friends. Phonetically spelled that guy.
Yeah.
All right, but now you got the process. All right. So,
right.
so what do we?
So, but are you saying you're not saying that they're fighting over water? They're just fighting near water because you need water to survive.
You have to plug in the camper.
Right.
You have to plug in the camper. So, if there's no water source, there's not going to be that much of a fight.
Correct.
All right, cavalry's going to throw stones at each other, and everybody's out of there because they can't. They can't sit down the cannons unless they have water.
Right.
Right, and that's going to be the key part of it. And so, what do we have here? All right, so I already messed it. You got Rock Creek. All right, and Rock Creek is east of town. You can go out York Street and cross the bridge. All right, you can go to Culp's Hill. And Rock Creek kind of makes a turn, and then it keeps on going south. Eventually, it's going to be the Monocacy River.
Right.
All right. But as we go along there, once we get below the Baltimore Pike or south of the Baltimore Pike, then all those farms on Rock Creek become Union Hospital sites.
Right. I see. Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So that's going to be your water source. All right, there are other water sources in the battlefield area, in this area, that they'll be able to use. On the Confederate side, it is Marsh Creek, and it's Marsh Creek sites below the Fairfield Road, all right, particularly for divisions of Pickett, and I would say McLaws and Hood also, that their sites are all there.
Okay. Yeah.
Right, the farm scene, we should have moved to the right, all of those are somewhere along the creek.
Right.
All right, and I'll go down some farm sites later. But, you get that picture of that part that we're in this valley.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Other runs, Willoughby Run. All right, that's first day's fighting. But Willoughby Run keeps on going south, and the Confederates are going to be able to use this all the way down to behind the Eisenhower farm.
Okay.
Right? And where's Longstreet's troops?
Going
all right. So if Longstreet's troops need water for horses or they need water for men and artillery, it's right behind them.
Yeah.
All right. It's not a big deal for them to get to that.
And it's also, if you're traveling along Willoughby Run, it's low ground.
Right. Exactly.
So you're out of sight.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. And then
theoretically,
over that way too is Pitzer's Run.
Right.
All right. And that's also, again, the two farms over there are Emmanuel and Samuel Pitzer's farms, right? Little signs up today as you go down Confederate Avenue, all right? But the run on that property is going to be able to supply the Confederates for a water source, particularly day 2, day 3.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so they've got that. Not a big one. Blotcher's Run, all right? So Blotcher's Run, day 1, all right, is obviously on the Blotcher farm property, and it's going to go to Rock Creek.
Right.
All right? At one point, it's in front of the Union lines. Another point, it's behind the Confederate lines. But again, it's just in the general area, so you have it available. Stevens Run.
Yeah.
All right.
I used to live on Stevens Run.
Exactly. All right. And that literally goes from, east of town to west of town, however way you want to run it. All right. Today, there's a viaduct that's through town.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I heard a friend would talk about once not paying attention and kind of walked that way in the snow. And
no.
Whoops.
Yeah. That used to be right behind my house. And when it would rain, that thing would get up high.
Exactly.
Yeah, I would be like just rushing through there.
And if you so you're on Washington Street, you go up to where the college, and you see where the run is today, and you say, well, that's not much.
Mm-hmm.
But that goes all the way out into Pickett's charge fields.
That does.
Yeah. If you have to follow that through, it will. It'll keep going, and it kind of disappears out there.
Interesting.
Yeah. There's it's been a long time. Somebody did a tour where they actually just followed that.
Really?
And I don't know access points or whether or not they're still available.
Did they have a permit?
Well, at that point, they didn't need a permit.
Okay.
Okay. At that point, it was that those were the days.
Right.
When you could get folks together and go out there and learn.
Just go. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we had that. All right, and Stevens Run, all right, Weinbrenner Run.
Mhm.
All right, so Weinbrenner Run, where can we get examples of that? So that's going to be at Farnsworth Tavern.
Mhm.
All right, that okay.
And then that goes across Baltimore,
Yeah, you
right?
go across Baltimore Street. The ice cream shop, Mr. G's
Mr.
there.
G's.
Okay, look in the well. All right, that's the well that would have tapped that run. Now, going for us today and underground, and some of us can remember 10 years back when the grates were still there.
Uh-huh.
All right, the run goes from the Weinbrenner house through the school parking lot. And today, that viaduct, if you take East Confederate Avenue, there's a big pipe there, and that empties out onto the Culp property.
Yeah.
So that water source is going to the Culp property. I think they just did some restoration work.
They did, yeah,
Right,
because
you know,
the cattle used to be down there, and
Right,
they kind
and-
of just ate all the vegetation. It kind of became marshy.
Yeah, and then also they planted a whole bunch of trees and things there that weren't there before.
Of course, yeah.
They carry along with it.
Right.
So now here's the problem with that, and let me get ahead of myself on it. July 4th, it rains.
Right.
All right. And now, so we're going to wash all of the crud off of Cemetery Hill down to Weinbrenner Run. Also, we're going to wash all the crud off of Baltimore Hill, right? The big hill on High Street, that's all going to wash down there too. And of course, there's two wells there. There's one at Mr. G's. There's also another one a little further down Baltimore Street, which was one of the town wells. So the town had a well in each street.
By the Rupp House.
By the Rupp House.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
All right. That's the water supply for everybody. Right? That's where everybody's going to go for water. Now, that south end of town, that's kind of shot up. But everybody else on Baltimore Street, if their well's not functioning, they're going to have to go down there for water.
Mm-hmm.
And think about that.
Mm.
All right? So all that crud, I mean, it's amazing. I mean, I question the lifespan of some of these people when I see them dying, in their late 20s and 30s, right? And, of course, they drank this water.
Yeah.
If not before. On the east side of the battlefield, all right? And let's go over to Benner's Hill, right? We got the Benner Farm over there. We've got the Lady Farm, all right? We've got Confederates sitting there the night of July 1st and into July 2nd. And what's their water source? All right, so you have Lady Run over there, all right? Now,
Where does that run?
That's going through the farm and the property across it. So you can still see some of it in the field.
So it's on the east side of the hill.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's on and that's a good point. So Benner's Hill drains into that little run, and it goes. Now there's a pond, of course, the farmer that was probably there too had built a pond in that area,
Right.
And then the run is going to go to Rock Creek.
Okay.
All right. But again, that's going to be water source. I would say primary for Lake Johnson's division, since he's in that area for that time period.
Makes
and
sense.
then again, artillery and wounded. Because now they're going to set the artillery up on Benner's Hill July 2nd and July 3rd.
Oh, yeah.
So they have to have a water source. It's right behind them. It's just down the hill. Send somebody down the hill, get a couple buckets of water. We're ready to go. Another one that's not there anymore.
Dawson's Creek.
Yeah, that one's not there. Yeah. Lake Mead. Right, the housing development.
Right. So
right.
that wasn't a lake back then.
No, there wasn't a lake there. What there was White's Run. And White's Run, and if you look on the maps, it goes from the Hanover Road to the Baltimore Pike, and it's in the White's Church area, which is where it gets its name from.
Right.
There was also a farm lane there, and if we get the information right, that some of the 5th Corps is using that, maybe even Barnes's division, Vinton's brigade. But they're using that to come off the Hanover Road. It's one of 2 roads from the Hanover Road to the Baltimore Pike.
Interesting.
To get to the Spangler Farm to get ready for the afternoon's activities.
So they would have come through what is now the Lake Heritage Development.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay.
Right. So again, there's 2 roads there. All right. And I always forget it. The other road is a little closer to town. Where the gas station is on 15. And it parallels 15 between the Baltimore Pike and the Hanover Road.
Oh, I always forget the name of that
I know.
road.
There's one Pennsylvania Cavalry
Yeah,
monument
the
there.
16th PA Cavalry.
Yeah, right.
It is, but keep going. It'll come to me.
Yeah. So anyway, Farm Lane.
I'm going to
All
look
right.
it up. Yeah.
Yeah, Farm Lane's there, and the 5th Corps will use that. So that comes into the roads part of thing. But White Run's there, so that's going to give a water source and use Crest Run.
Crest Run, okay.
Crest Run, Crest Ridge, right? What do we call Crest Ridge today? We call that East Cavalry Battlefield.
Uh-huh.
All right, so that run is behind Stewart's position on July 3rd, right? You know, when he first sets his troops out there, you know, it's really, if you go down, I think it's Hoffman Road, all right, you go down Hoffman Road and look to your right, and there's a little ridge above you, right?
Right.
And the Confederate cavalry is going to be into those woods. They can't be seen until they're ready to, all right? But that runs right behind them as a water source.
So the runs and the creeks and the streams and everything, they serve more than one purpose because they will be obviously in lower ground.
Right.
And they'll provide you with cover as well as the water that you need for your men and your horses. The name of the road is Highland Avenue.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. On the map here, it says Highland Avenue Road, which I don't know why you need to have avenue and road, but whatever.
Right, which was a farm lane then.
Yeah.
And you bring that up. I forgot about Wineburner Run. All right, Wineburner Run is deep enough that Hayes's brigade of Louisianans used it like a World War I trench. All right, July 2nd and July 3rd. Right. They take that over. They're going to launch their attack from Cemetery Hill from there.
Yeah.
All right, so, you know, I just skipped past me, but I'm glad you brought that up.
But yeah, so I mean, it just makes sense that you would, if you can, you know, use those to cover you as you, and conceal you, I should say, as you travel. Right,
and then with the second time, and brings us right to the next thing, through Rose Woods is Rose Run. All right, if you go in there and at other times you're trying to get to one or two of the markers in the woods, right? And if it's wet, well, that's an obstacle, you know.
Yeah.
And having slid into all these at one time or another, right? You know, I admit that there has been some issues where footing wasn't quite as sure as I need to be.
You fall off my stools and you slide all over the battlefield.
I'm taking meds for that. But Plum Run, Anderson's men use Plum Run like a trench.
Yeah.
To hold their end of the wheat field till they get, you know, reinforcements. All right. And of course, Plum Run is then going to run into Rose Run. All right. I'm sorry. Rose Run is going to run into Plum Run.
Right.
All right. Plum Run.
Feeds Plum
Run. Or whatever, Bloody Run, whatever we want to call that.
Beaver Run.
Yes. Lake Crawford.
Lake Crawford.
The Lake Crawford.
The mighty shores of the Lake Crawford.
Lake Crawford development. All right. All right. And for those that want to go swimming, there is a Tipton marker, I think, underneath that. Okay.
Get your scuba gear.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
It doesn't say anything about no scuba diving.
Well,
it
doesn't. And I was told by Jason Martz on the show when I asked him about fishing there, he says, we don't control the waterways. So I guess if you want to go scuba diving or swimming.
They proved that.
Yeah, they did.
They certainly proved that. All right.
Yeah.
But Plum Run, okay, look at that whole valley. All right. You know, one of my favorite spots on the battlefield is to go past the Trossel house, and they got a wayside, and you very seldom see a car there.
Yeah.
But you pull over and you look left and right, and you're looking at Plum Run. Plum Run's going to go all the way up to the area right in front of the Pennsylvania Monument.
Right.
All right. And then if you look south, it's going to go south of Big Round Top and disappear into the woods. And then again, it'll follow you. If you want to take South Confederate Avenue after a rainstorm, that water, you cross a bridge, that water's running.
Yeah.
All right. And of course, the story is that bodies even got jammed up in that.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
You know, after the July 4th run. And just, so you get that whole picture of that. But here again, we have, that is water as an obstacle, just like Stevens Run, I mentioned earlier, north of town. The 11th Corps uses that as an obstacle against the Confederate attack. You know, we kind of forget that, but they blocked that. And so, you know, they blocked the road until, the Confederates can get those pesky Union cannon guys out of town.
Right.
So I mean that gives us all right. And here's one that's always got me. And too that my life is so small that sometimes I have nothing to do and I stand places. Right. And here's one of my places. So one of my first standing spots was Spangler Spring.
Okay.
All right. And didn't we love the story about both sides drinking out of the spring?
Yes. Peace during war.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Now, in actuality, the Confederates, the Union Army kind of controls the spring on July 1st, and then at the end of July 3rd, the Confederates in between. But now let's talk about McDougal's brigades up there. He's got 1,500 guys. They're on the Baltimore Pike, and they're thirsty. All right. So under fire, under cover of darkness, they're going to crawl down that hill towards Spangler Spring. They're going to crawl through Gwynn Run, come up out of Gwynn Run, all right, and then make their way wet to the spring.
Huh.
Okay.
Why couldn't they just get water from Gwynn Run?
Well, I don't know. It doesn't fit the story.
Okay.
It's got to fit the story.
Yeah. All right. Now, Gwynn Run, though, that is where in
okay, so that's
off the Baltimore Pike?
Well, it starts at the Visitor Center. All right, it's the water source along the parkways at the Visitor Center. That's the upper part of it. Again, Gwynn Farm.
Yeah.
Gwynn Run.
That's why I'm thinking.
All
right.
Okay, and then so it goes through. It crosses. I guess it's underground. All right, and then comes back out again. But it is that area. The rest stop in Copp's Hill, Spangler Spring.
Yes.
All right, you can't right now, but when they rehabilitated the area 10 years ago, you could trail in there. And you would hit that. Okay. All right. And then that gets lost, and to set somebody out with trivia, then that's a that's a Connecticut regiment position is in that part of the run as they attack the 10th Virginia on the flank of Johnson's division when Johnson's getting ready to charge Party Field.
Okay.
Right. So he's got a Connecticut regiment down there, and it escapes me which one.
Trying to think.
Is that 17th? Maybe it's 17th. All right, I don't know.
I'll look it up.
Things that Ken got wrong.
Yeah, right.
That's a big list.
This is
right.
This isn't about regiments. This episode. This is about infrastructure.
Yeah. Patterson Run.
Okay.
All right, so that's Patterson Farm. All right, and now so behind the Tawnytown Road is Patterson Run, and of course it's on the two Patterson Farms. That leads it into the Visitor Center area also. Okay. All right, and that's behind the Union aid stations. All right?
Right.
Okay, so all of those, those forward aid stations along the Tawnytown Road, 2nd Corps, 3rd Corps, 5th Corps, right? And so that is a water source that's available to them. All right, but that's water, all right? And water flows downhill. Yes. All right, so as these officers arrive here, and we'll hear quotes, this is good ground, as they're seeing these mountains. First off, let's talk about South Mountain. So that, of course, that's west of town. All right, but that goes all the way down into Virginia. All right, what are the Confederates using that for? They're using that to hide from the Union Army. Okay. All right, so they can use that high ground for concealment.
Are you thinking of the 5th Connecticut?
It would be McDougal's brigade.
Yeah, 5th Connecticut.
Okay, so it's 5th. Okay.
Go ahead.
All right, but whatever Connecticut unit's attacking the 10th Virginia, that's where they are. They're in that run. Okay. Okay. Now let's maps. Let's retrace our stuff for a second, folks. If you want to follow this by map, then you can go to Library of Congress, and then Civil War maps, and then Civil War maps. You can search Gettysburg. Mm-hmm. And look, you're going to get 130 to 150 Gettysburg maps. The one that I go to first is, of course, the Warren map from 1869 and the 1858 Adams County map.
Now, why do you go to the Warren first?
All right. So the Warren map, even though there are some name errors on it, is there are two parts to that. One of the drawlers, it was called the maps from the saddle, were maps that Cope drew right after the battle. Okay. right? Or within a time frame after the battle, without going into that part about looking the map times up. And then they become the base for the Warren map that Warren draws in 1869 battlefield.
Okay.
And that's the most comprehensive. And all the other maps, even though there were other maps drawn, all of the maps from that point on go back to the Warren part. That's the maps that the War Department used. That's the map that Batchelder uses. That's the map that Park Service uses today.
So you use it because it's the map from which all other maps were made.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Papa Matt.
Yeah.
So that part of it, and look, you have the Elliott burial map, you have Batchelder's map, and so that'll give you some information, but you're still better off that one. Now, all those maps are there, and if you're trying to go look that up right away and watch this program, don't do that because you'll get lost.
Right.
You'll be there forever.
Yeah.
Just go to the Warren map and take it from there. All right. And of course, all my information is coming off of that map when I'm doing this,
Okay.
right? And then we'll make corrections on some of it later. But South Mountain, so South Mountain Range, and we have these fights. We have Aldie, Middleburg, Upperville. That's all about Confederate cavalry stopping the Union cavalry to seeing what the Union Army's done, right? And then that's going to come up. The Buford, a day or two before the battle, and Buford is in Emmitsburg. Right, and some Confederate infantry pops out, right, because they're blocking his path. He can't get over the mountain to see what the Confederates are doing.
Right.
But since he's seen them, he knows they're there.
Right.
Okay, and so now he knows they're on his left. We're at the range of scene. From the Emmitsburg, when you're looking at that, your best source for passes to see over South Mountain then becomes Monterey. All right. Chambersburg, right? Mummersburg,
Right.
Black Gap, right? So that's going to be your sources, right? So, and that brings us, all right?
So, but Buford can't.
If he sends troops over, the Confederates are blocking his way.
Right.
Now,
So he has to go down through Emmitsburg again and then up to Gettysburg.
He's got to come. He's got to find some way. He's got to find a passable route over South Mountain. And that's what he's doing with his scouts, but his scouts hit Confederate infantry at Emmitsburg.
Yeah.
A day or two before.
Yeah.
Right? That's part of the story. Right.
Right. Is that what you're talking about?
I'm sorry?
Are you saying Emmitsburg or are you talking about Fountaindale?
All right. I'm thinking Emmitsburg.
All right.
All right. And I'm thinking what is the western end of 140. All right, but go for it. It should be Wilcox's Alabama Brigade, and the two of them spot Union Cavalry spots Confederates, Confederate spot Union Cavalry, and it's in the Emmitsburg area.
And they exchange a few shots or no?
Maybe. Yeah.
Okay.
So
I don't know. Pre-battle, I'm hazy on things.
And look,
so
again, not prepped for that as far as detail goes, but there's that fight.
Yeah.
I'm just pointing that out. In Virginia, it's the three battles we have on the campaign: Upperville, Middleburg,
and
Aldie, right? And then there's young Custer there, and he's running around having a good time, and that's all going on. But they can't see the Confederates moving up. But now they're getting reports in Pennsylvania, so they know it's somewhere on their left there's Confederates. But, of course, they get all the other points. They're on their left. They're in top. They're at Harrisburg. They're on top of them. They're on their right at Hanover. Where are they?
They're everywhere.
But, somebody else said it's like whack-a-mole. All right? Okay, so the Union Cavalry is trying to find, and every time they go someplace, or the other way around, Union Cavalry is trying to pop through, and the Confederates are like whacking the mole and knocking them back down again. So that becomes part of it. Everybody's apprehensive. All right, so Black's Gap. So the Mummersburg Road goes through Black's Gap, which in colonial times was a trading post. Two brothers, their first trading post was there. Their last name was Black, so that's what that gets named from. Black's Gap Road.
That makes sense.
All right?
Yeah.
Now, Black's Gap Road is there at the time of the battle. So if you go and you cross through Black's Gap, the road's there today, you right or left, Black's Gap Road, and that goes to Carlisle.
Yes.
All right, and of course the Confederates are going to use it the other way around.
Right.
On July 1st.
I think we looked at a house on Black's Gap Road.
It's kind of a cool place.
It is.
We
didn't like the house.
But I like drive. I won't go too far, but I'll go out there and drive 5 miles one way, 5 miles the other way, just to see what I can come up with.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
Cashtown Gap, right? Cashtown Inn. That's part of it. Okay, most of the Confederate Army 2 Corps are going to use that and its parallel roads as access to the battlefield. Right? Not enough though. Right? It's because now when they need their infantry is blocked by their wagons.
Right.
All right. So that becomes a problem. But regardless, it's one way in.
Yeah.
All right.
And they didn't have old Route 30 and new Route 30 like we have today. They only had old Route 30.
Oh yeah, and Ed's Farm Lane or whatever.
Right. right.
And of course they're doing that.
Yeah.
All right. And the pioneers, I always like seeing these guys in the parade, the guys with the shovel.
Oh, yeah.
But what they're doing is they're knocking down roadway on one side or the other of the road. They're knocking down the fences so that they have a parallel line. All right. And then we can keep the we can keep the artillery and wagons on hard surface, and we can put the infantry in the grass.
Right.
I think that's how that works itself out.
Yeah.
But there are reports of that happening.
Yeah.
All right.
Which makes sense. So they
To
basically
and from
make a new lane.
Yeah, they're making it's no longer old 15 now. It's new 15 dual lane highway.
Right.
With an appropriate orange cones.
Old 30B.
Yeah, appropriate orange cones to stop everybody.
Right.
You can't go there. Monterey Pass. All right. Sometimes it's called the Fairfield Gap, Hagerstown Road. So, and look about this. Okay, so 10 roads to and from Gettysburg. Right. Okay, so these passes. The other pass is a Hagerstown Road.
Right.
All right. Now, interestingly enough, on Willoughby Run, behind the Eisenhower farm, was a farm site for Willoughby Winchester.
Okay.
And the first name for that gap going past these houses, which was called Millerstown Road.
Right.
Because before it was, was called, the Millerstown Road was also called Fairfield Road. So we get confused because we've got 2 Fairfield roads.
Right. And they had changed it from Millerstown to Fairfield because there was already a Millerstown or something like that, right?
Miller is in Fairfield.
Yeah.
As far as I can tell.
Right. He's the founder of.
Right. Yeah. So the A. Miller and making a mill or whatever. As I babble on.
Right.
Okay. If I babble enough, maybe I can become a politician. So anyway, the Hagerstown Road that was there at the time of the battle, the colonial Hagerstown Road obviously went from Gettysburg to Hagerstown.
Right.
Right. And that's going to be some of the road bed. And the other road from the valley south of town, which we call Wheatfield Road, Millerstown Road today, was also by the locals called the Fairfield Road because, again, it was going to Fairfield where the Miller was.
Squire John Miller is who you're talking about.
Is it really?
Yep.
Okay.
You want to hear it? Here, I got it for you. Ready?
Go ahead.
1784, Squire John Miller laid out lots and began selling them in the town of Fairfield. 1886, Squire William Miller, Isabella Henry, and John's son file for the Mansion House. This is from the Mansion House in Fairfield. To operate as an inn or tavern. Squire William Miller served as a captain in the Colonial Army and a staunch Federalist, became Pennsylvania's first state senator. 1794, Squire John Miller passes away. 1797, the barn that stands 75 yards behind the Mansion House was built. Okay, so here, 1801, Millerstown had to change its name because there was already Millerstown in Pennsylvania, so it became Fairfield, Pennsylvania. This is according to the history of the Mansion House in built in 1757.
All right, and I think by that time, Willoughby Winchester is gone.
Okay.
All right, but initially that gap is Willoughby's Gap, and then it's Fairfield Gap, and then it's Monterey Pass.
Okay.
All right, so it goes through those. I guess it gets the Monterey name as we get closer to the Civil War.
Yeah.
Right, and Willoughby Winchester, that's kind of interesting story too. Again, none of his farm site remains, but one of the Eisenhower farms is on that site.
Okay. Now, when you
Okay.
say one of the Eisenhower farms, you mean
There's 5 of them.
Right. Okay. So which
Right,
one?
a whole big farm property. There's 5 separate farms.
Which one are you talking about?
I don't know what it's called right now. I do know that if I go to the Eisenhower farm, make a left turn, I think that's Red Rock.
Yeah.
All right, if I go along Red Rock, we'll see Willoughby Run on our right, and then we'll see a nice bridge and a little farmhouse on the hillside.
Okay.
That's the area.
Okay.
Okay, where it was.
Yep.
But again, you had to go past this guy's farm to get to the gap, and therefore it gets that's the first name of it.
Okay.
And I digress. As I always
As you often do.
that's right.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Of course, Monterey Pass today is what Waynesboro Route 16, and the Emmitsburg Turnpike 140. All right. And so, days before the battle, the Confederates are on those roads. All right. Now, and of course, well, this stuff we're talking about things that are west of town. So let's get closer to town. And I like to say that if you're looking out the Chambersburg Road, all right, and you can see Hare's Ridge, all right, and we know that beyond that is Whistler's Ridge,
Right.
all right, and there's another ridge behind it. It's like folds in a blanket.
Yes.
That's what this ground is like, all right, and so Whistler Ridge, all right, and we know that the Union cavalry is going to use that for observation. They're going to use that high ground for vignettes,
Right.
okay, and then McPherson's Ridge is a double ridge. That's going to be their fallback position, and of course, that's going to be the infantry position on July 1st, right? Seminary Ridge, same thing. But now the Seminary Ridge, you have to kind of watch that. In that, all the way in the south end, South Confederate Avenue, it's Warfield Ridge.
Right. Yeah.
But still the same ridge, and then it's Seminary Ridge. And then when you get north of the Hagerstown Road and north of the seminary, all right, it's Oak Ridge and Hill.
Yes.
Okay, it doesn't stop. I mean, just because the train cut through.
North of the Chambersburg Road, you're saying.
Right. Yeah.
not
So I mean,
Hagerstown.
that's a long ridge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. It has different names at different sections, but it's all
Right, it's
one
the same
piece.
ridge, right? And so for them, it's one usable fixture. McPherson's Ridge is one usable fixture because it goes all the way down and it kind of disappears behind the Pitzer farm, i.e., what's it? The big white farm there with the cows.
Brown Farm.
The Brown farm
Yeah.
today. It's
The
a
Brown
private-
Ranch.
Brown Ranch.
Yes.
Right. Yes. The ranch.
It's
And of
that
course-
big, when you're on Confederate Avenue, folks, it's that big, beautiful white ranch that's
Yeah.
off to the right behind the 11th Mississippi Monument.
I know.
Yeah.
And
I
what-
know you know. I'm just letting the audience know.
It was for sale once, but
Yeah, too steep for you?
But and we talk about that ridge line though, then Pickett's division is going to use that ridge line to get into place.
Yes.
Right. So I mean, this is what these officers see, right? As each one of them where they're coming from, and mention some of what they're doing.
How about, Ken, real
Yeah.
quick, the Staub House? Do you know that?
Yes.
Where is that still around? Where is that?
Okay. So the plot is around because it's rough ground,
Okay.
and because the foundation for the house and the barn are still buried there. All right. Along with the world's largest groundhog colony.
Oh, very nice.
All right, now,
How do you know that?
okay, because I've been out there.
What, digging underground?
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
Okay.
And if you see anything, tell somebody.
Right. No, but where is it, though?
All right, so here you go.
It's in the park.
It's in the park.
Where?
All right, so let's go to Pitcher's Woods,
All right.
and we're there on Saturday,
All right.
and there is an artillery or infantry demonstration.
Sure. So you're down by the amphitheater and the Longstreet Monument.
Right, and okay, so now you're on the east side of it. You're watching the demonstration.
You're on the side where the road is.
Right,
Go ahead.
Right, and you look down the kind of low ground there,
Yeah.
and you'll see scrub pine trees.
Yes.
All right, and they are in an area about the size of a football field.
Okay.
That is the Staub Farm property.
So out in the field in front of where those
Right.
cannon would be firing, basically,
Yes.
is where the Staub property. So the house itself is not visible, but if you go out there, the foundation is.
you should still find some foundation stones. I haven't been out
So
there
you make
in a
sure
couple
you
years.
make sure you get a permit to go out there, though, because it's not mowed.
It's rough.
Well,
ground.
I'm sorry, I'm just following the rules.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
whoever asked that in the comments, apply for a permit.
Yes.
Give them at least 30 days before you come out there and ask them if you can go look at the foundation of the Staub Farm.
Right, and so
And they'll
how,
say, where?
yeah. How
They'll call Ken and be like, where's the Staub Farm?
How many people do you need to have a permit.
Well, I don't know, but I think just play,
should be in your
just
next-
err on the side of caution and just
yeah,
one.
yeah.
Well, I mean, because you have to go off of paved or mowed paths to go see the Staub farm.
I don't have to do that.
What do you hover over the ground?
I can try that, but they'd shoot me down. Right? I can take the lanes that the farmers use today to get there. If I follow the wood line for where we're at, we're looking at the farm.
Yes.
Over to your left on the wood line, there is the pathway that the farmers use.
Okay.
All right. I can come from the Spangler farm, who was his neighbor.
Yep.
All right. And
The
again,
Henry Spangler, not Henry.
yeah, it's Henry. You're right.
It is Henry?
Yeah.
I thought Henry was.
Oh, you want to do Spangler farm?
Oh, God.
We'll do that later.
Who's the one over on Baltimore Street?
Okay, that is
Abraham?
Abraham. That's his dad.
All right, thank you.
That's Dad.
I knew there was a relation to.
Okay,
Okay, so Henry's over there.
Henry
Yeah, gotcha.
owns the farm, but he's not living there.
Okay.
Okay, he's living on Abraham's farm. All right, and he's renting that out to the Ecken Roads.
Of course.
And where's Abraham at? Okay,
God
of course
knows.
there's George Spangler. We know where that's at. That's a part of the park property and a site you can go to by bus.
Right.
He's on the other side of Willoughby Run because I don't think he wants to have anything else to do with his family.
Oh,
He's far enough away that they're not going to drive there unless it's important.
right. Putting a moat between them. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So back to the Staub farm.
Yeah,
So you
okay,
can
so-
take the current farm lanes.
Yeah, the current farm lanes will get you out there, or the fence line. You have the center fence line too. That the fence line that's between Emmitsburg Road and West Confederate Avenue.
Right.
And there's a fence going right through. You could take that out too and follow the fence line. That would be my guess. That those areas are typically mowed or semi-mowed for farm use.
Okay. Very good. And let's see here. So this is somebody in the comment section
Sure.
asked this question, and she or he says, "Tell Ken I look for the summer lilies in July."
Yes.
Ken once said you find locations of where houses once were by the perennials, the lilies.
The lilies. Pennsylvania farmers' wives like daylilies.
Okay.
All right. So now, if you want to find the road to the Staub farm, all right.
Yeah.
Okay. So you come down the Wheatfield Road. You're headed to. I'm sorry. You come down. Well, you can do it your way. You cross the Wheatfield Road, cross Emmitsburg Road, along the fence line on your right. You're going to see a stand of lilies.
Yeah.
Right. That was the farm lane to the Staub farm.
I always wondered why there were just these random stands of lilies
There
all
are.
over the place.
Okay,
So the wives would plant them
Well,
around
sure,
the house.
Yeah, and look, and they multiply so fast
Yeah.
that you don't have to worry about buying them,
Right.
right? And you can get some from your sister. All right, and we're talking about there's one more farmhouse there. Of course, the Warford House. Everybody asks what's the farm across the street. That's
Right.
the Schaefer farm, right?
Schaefer-er.
2 R's.
Yes.
Two ERs.
Two R's.
Two ERs. He's Alsace Lorraine. So that's a common. All right, and sometimes it's spelled ER or UR, depending
Okay.
upon
All right,
who
yeah,
it
yeah.
is. Okay, Ditterer in town is UR.
Ditterer, yeah. Got it.
But anyway, they're all related in some way. That's a whole nother story. But, one's married to a sister, blah, 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 right? And so you just, your sister next farm over, here are some of our daylilies. Mom made some for you. Cut some out for you.
Yeah.
And so what farm we can find? We can find the Timbers farm. Timbers farm site is clearly marked by daylilies when
The
they're
recently vandalized Timbers farm.
yeah,
Yes.
right. And across from non-historic sites, the tower on coming off of Oak Hill, the Oak Hill Tower.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
If you look on the other side of the street, you'll see a whole run of daylilies and flowers there. All right, and the woman owned that was a souvenir stand area. You could buy souvenirs there. 100 years.
When
ago.
you say the other side of the street, you're saying
sorry,
the other side of Mummersburg
well,
Road or
I'm
the
sorry,
Park
wait,
Road?
Did that? Okay, so you're at the tower.
Right.
You're at the Oak Hill Tower.
Yeah.
Right, and that's Doubleday Avenue.
Right.
All right, and if you look west
Yeah. Okay. So out into the
on
field.
the west side of the street, 88th Pennsylvania Monument's there.
Yep.
Right, and then north of the 86th Pennsylvania Monument, there's this long stand. All right, and it looks like just grass, but at the right time, that's all daylilies.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
And it goes across the street too. All right.
Yes, I know exactly. Yes.
So
yes.
there was at one point there was another non-historic farm on the other side of the road also. All right, and you'll see daylight there.
Further down the Mummasburg Road,
Right,
closer to town, you mean?
No, so let's leave the Peace Light Memorial.
Okay.
All right, and as we drive down the road, because we're headed to the Oak Hill Tower, on our right-hand side where the fence is today, there's daylilies.
Okay.
Right, and so I'm just giving you a couple observation points of where you find them.
Yeah, and so in the springtime when they're all in bloom, that's when you got to go find them.
Yeah.
Because they're not there all year long, obviously.
We could also find sometimes. And I found.
Don't pick them.
That's and don't dig them up.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't think. Oh, I'd love to have flowers grow in my garden that were on the Gettysburg battlefield. Do not do that.
Don't get there. There are some areas in the battlefield where there used to be backs of farms. All right, and Mrs. Farmers planted tulips. So
Right.
I found some boundaries in some of the woods areas of these properties and stone walls or whatever that are lined by tulips.
Isn't that interesting?
Well, the little squirrel critters spread them.
Yeah.
They go get them from the back of and then they tend to show you. And let's go out there that knowing where they are into the wood sites where there is a trail. There's some really, really nice looking patches of tulips in there too.
Interesting.
Right?
All right, let's get back on subject, Ken, because I have to have dinner at some point today.
Right. Okay, so mountains. Okay, so we where was I at? Okay, let's go faster.
Well, yeah. Okay.
Whistler's Ridge, McPherson's Ridge, Seminary Ridge, and we already mentioned Oak Hill and Oak Ridge, right? And of course, observation. That's the Oak Hill observation point is you
Still great.
Right.
Yeah.
Blotcher's Knoll,
Right.
Barlow's Knoll.
Right.
All right. Again, high ground, observation point, and Barlow is going to use that as the center of his salient, his line.
Yeah.
Thinking that it's defensible. All right. Not realizing
Joke's
that.
on you, Frankie.
Right. And why isn't it? Okay. Because if we go up where the school is today, right, is the Jacob Klein Farm is on the left side where the school is.
The high school.
The high school.
Yeah.
On the right-hand side is Jones Avenue.
Right. Hillary Jones.
All right. And Hillary Jones, one of the few avenues, but it's a hill.
Right.
All right. And he puts his batteries up there. So he's able to get 3 or 4 batteries or parts of them on that hill. All right. Which makes Barlow's Knoll under a serious fire. And here's how the soldiers are going to use us. So we have Jones on that hill, and you got Carter on Oak Hill. Because remember, Carter sets his guns up, they fire first. And now it's crossfire, right? It's crossfire right into Ames's brigade.
Right.
Right? And, which is no reason why, like the 25th Ohio loses 83% of its casualties. 83. It's the highest. It's the highest loss.
It's up there. Yeah, I don't know.
Right, but that's part of it. They're going to fight again on July 2nd,
right?
And it's just as bad a spot. All right, but it's just crossfire. It's 25th, 75th, 107th, the Connecticut Regiment. They're all getting it.
It might be important to note too that when you're saying that Barlow's Knoll, for example, is an observation point. Today you go up there and the only thing you could observe is behind the Union lines, right?
Yeah.
But it's important to understand that the tree cover that we have in the whole area is not what it was in 1863.
There's a couple of trees down by the creek.
Yeah.
There are 1 or 2 good photographs taken from the farm on the other side of this woods, the Benner farm, Joshua Benner, looking up the hill.
Right.
And looking up the hill from the other side,
it's a hill.
It's impressive.
Yeah,
it really is.
And you really should. Well, I don't think you can do it anymore, but you used to be able to walk down to the creek.
Yes.
And if you can, and then get down to the creek, turn around and look up at what you just came down on Barlow's Knoll, and you realize, okay, that's a pretty, you could understand. But my point is that the visibility back then was much greater everywhere in the area because
you could see all the way up.
Well, and because people used wood. The trees had purpose back then. They weren't just something to look at and go, oh, that's so pretty. You used them.
Oak for building. Pine, scrap pine for firewood. Good pine for building.
Mm-hmm.
Mom needs a new hutch, right? Ash. All right. Ash for the fence posts because it weathers better. than the most of the other woods.
Interesting.
All right? And so, of course, you see the fancy cherry wood and so on, other hardwoods, maple, all right, also commonly used for furniture, not as much for building.
Right.
All right. But you get all that. So that's a crop. When he can't sell you corn and tomatoes, he can sell you lumber.
Right.
Right. So that gets that's north. All right. Let's go east. All right. So if we go to Benner's Hill, right? Everybody knows where Benner's Hill is, to get out of town, little part of the park. All right. The next hill, if we're leaving town, is Wolf's Hill. All right. And that hill is a long north-south hill. All right. Because it is on the Lady Farm property, north of the Hanover Road. From there, it goes from the Hanover Road to the Baltimore Pike. And from the Baltimore Pike, it still goes south of there. All right. Okay. And with roads on both sides of it, right? There is what the road to McAllister's Mill, and from McAllister's Mill to the Benner Farm, and from the Benner Farm to the Lady Farm. So there is a farm road that connects there on the west side of the hill, right? That Johnson uses.
Now, so let me pause you there.
Yeah.
So flipping around, Neal Avenue, Lost Avenue is
Right.
on Wolf's Hill, correct?
Right. And that's
Okay.
east-west.
And that's they're facing east-west. And there was a farm lane out there back then, is what you're saying. That
Several.
is that what the hell's the name of the road? I just looked it up. Fairview. What did I?
No. That's on the other side. We're going to get to that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So this is a different farm lane.
Right.
No longer there.
Right.
But
Right.
so that's why they're out there, because
Sure.
if you do go to Neal Avenue today,
Right.
it's just this little piece of parkland in a sea of trees,
Right.
right? And
And
you're
it
like,
was
what the hell is this all about?
And
Why would they put them out here?
Right, and that's all part of. And let me say this: that's all part of the 1916 election, before World War I, and Wilson comes into office, and he brings in the Young Democrats, and the Young Democrats, the Republican Party is split, and one of the things in Congress is no more money for your old Civil War parks. All right. Now, Neal. All right. So Neal is on that. Where is the rest of his division? The rest of his division is over on, I did it right, over on the Tawnytown Road. And what we know today is Howe Avenue,
Okay.
because it's Howe's division, right? And then if we cross over the road and get into the park, the cool lion statue that's there is Grant. That's the other brigade, right? That was supposed to be a road that never was built. That's one.
That connects to Neal?
It would have connected from one end to the other. It would have went from there to Blacksmith Shop Road or Hospital Avenue. From Hospital Avenue, it would have went to the McAllister's Mill Road and then up over the hill.
Wow.
All right, and then it would have came out on, as you said, Fairview
Avenue.
I forgot it again.
No, I think it is Fairview Avenue Road.
Yeah, Fairview Avenue Road. Right. So it would have come out there.
Right.
All right. And then it would have connected to East Cavalry Road on the Lady Farm going,
Wow.
okay, and going there. That's a whole other map. Okay.
Wait, East Cavalry Road on the Lady Farm?
Yes.
On the Lady Farm.
On the Lady Farm. Right. From.
Why?
Okay. It would have came. All right, the road.
Yes.
Okay, that road.
Right.
The proposed road went from Oak Hill
Yes.
to Letterman
Okay.
to the Lady Farm
Okay.
to Crest Ridge.
Aha.
And they bought parts of it. One part that they bought that never got built on is one of the farm lanes in the back of the Lady Farm.
Okay.
And which was called then Johnson's Avenue, which was then divested once the park couldn't expand above that road. It gets divested and sold back to the farmer or whatever.
How cool would that have been if they
Oh
had
my
made
gosh.
that road like that?
I mean, that was that whole Letterman thing.
I mean, could you imagine like how much easier it would be to get out to East Cavalry Field? And
All right, so and that's the magic. All right, that is on the New York Monuments map. all right, that was proposed by Dan
Butterfield.
Sickles.
Oh, Dan Sickles.
That was
Oh,
that was part of the Monument Commission stuff.
Okay.
All right, and what part of it? But you were supposed to have the whole area. The veterans wanted Letterman saved.
Dan Butterfield.
There you go. All right, but okay, so that's afterwards. We could do a whole program on what's not there.
Yeah.
All right.
I would love to one day,
Yeah.
actually.
All right,
That
so-
would be really cool.
Okay, Crest Ridge again, Cavalry Field. We saw that. Okay, the woods at the time were on top of Crest Ridge. All right, the woodlot, so the Confederate cavalry hides there. Culp's Hill, we got that. Right, Rock Creek's around it. I mean, you know, the smart move there is that Rock Creek becomes a moat around the Union Castle.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how you know? I mean, so we take a look at this again. It's all about perspective,
Right.
So you're the perspective, right? And you're going to build this wooden fort on top of a hill, and you have this creek that's a moat. I mean, you know, how King Arthur is that?
Yeah, right.
You know, Cemetery Hill. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, like, it is when I really got into studying the battle, the more I really dug into, so to speak, the ground.
Right.
And I really started to pay attention to the way the ground was laid out and the way a military eye would see it and use it. I would always say, I'm like, man, it's like God sculpted this to be a battlefield. He
Right.
put everything in the right place. All it took was for a war to bring the armies here and the right generals to read the ground and
Right.
use it accordingly. I mean, it sounds like it's really simple, but it's not. It obviously took millions of years. But point is, it's almost seems like it's staged, like it's not.
Right.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean, Ken.
Right. And let's go down to Fishhook. Right.
All right, let's go down it.
All right. Cemetery Hill.
Cemetery Hill.
All right. Again, observation. The Union Signal Corps is going to be using that for a couple of days, right? And let me do again the Signal Corps. And if we read their reports, the signal station is on the top. So sometimes it's on top of Cemetery Hill, but then it's on top of the hill beyond that.
Powers.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. But from Cemetery, so Powers Hill to Cemetery Hill. From the Cemetery Hill signal station, you can see Indian Lookout. Indian Lookout is on the mountain above the shrine in Emmitsburg.
Okay, gotcha.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
And that's private property. But once in a while, they will have the gates unlocked. You can get permission. All right. You know, from the church to go up the hill. All right. And then once you get up there, the first thing you see, boom, there's the Pennsylvania Monument.
Really?
All right. And then you can see the Regulars Monument. All right. And then the trees, which are now the cemetery, which is kind of where I believe the signal station was. All right. Now, from Indian Lookout, instead of looking north toward Gettysburg, let's look east. And the next thing I can see is the churches.
Oh.
The churches are the church on top of the hill with the town of Tawnytown.
Oh, okay.
Tawnytown's on a hill.
I did
right?
not know that.
Okay. And at the base of the hill is Harney Road.
Yeah.
The Harney farm was there, but
Yeah.
just down the street, and one of those farms on Harney Road, and again, a mile, on the 30th of June is Meade's headquarters.
Right.
All right. So I want to think about this. Even on July 1st, wherever the Signal Corps is using, if they're using Cemetery Hill, and I have to go back into Signal Corps and what they say. We know that they have observation from Professor Jacobs takes Union soldiers up to the cupola on the old dorm building at the college, right? The big white building. They're up there. They can see that's July 1st. And I don't know if they're using that, if that's Signal Corps personnel or just cavalry. And then, oh my gosh, how can we miss the scene, right? Buford's up there. He's got his binoculars on in the seminary, and up rides Reynolds.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay. But again, observation. Now, the beauty of that point is we know the Confederates probably used that afterwards. The Union Army is looking west. Once the Confederates have the site, they're looking east.
Yeah.
So both sides are going to be able to do that.
Right.
All right. And so that becomes part of it.
Also, much easier to do back then.
Yeah.
Because the trees and the neighborhoods, like it's all different now.
Right. All right. And then, so we go down Cemetery Ridge. All right. You know, the Union battle line, the fishhook. All right. But we get down there, and we're past, or at the south end, and up on a hill is this great big New Jersey monument, Weichert Hill. Right. And then you go a little further, and then there's another hill there. And I think 4 farmers all owned a slice of it. Right. But that is the intersection of the Wheatfield Road and Sykes Avenue today. Right. You know, that hill there.
Munshauer's Hill?
Munshauer's. Yeah. Munshauer family owns part of it. Weichert owns part of it. Bushman owns part of it. Everybody's got pieces, their hands in the pie there for some reason.
Okay.
Right. But that's cleared. All right. So that you know, that the wood line today that's probably about right. And then, of course, the Little Round Top and Big Round Top. We got that. Now, we also want to note, as I come back on this, let me go one for a step further. On the other side of Big Round Top, right? Even today, part of Ridge Road.
Yeah.
All right. And so we think about that. The Kearns farms are down there. There's there's 1 or 2 other farms there. And, you know, part that we always think about for South Cavalry Battlefield, but South Cavalry Battlefield is right on the other side of Big Round Top.
Right.
All right. Now, when you're talking about God made all this into nature, humans mess with this too. All right.
Okay.
So, Little Round Top. Little Round Top is harvested timber.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
On the west side of the hill.
Like 10 months before the battle, right?
Right. Okay. And then observation again. On the east side of the hill, coming off of the Weichert Farm property, some of it still exists today, but it's private property, is a logging road that went up the hill. Right? And so, I mean, think about this.
But on the west, east side of
Tawnytown Road, Weichert property.
Yeah.
At the end of the Weichert property, along their fence line, was a road that goes up the hill, and you can kind of see that on the Warren map.
Yeah.
You know, so Warren gets up there, he gets on a rock, gets his gas out. He sees there's no parking, right? And, you know, at that point, then, you know, he also sees that, you know, that the Confederates can use this, and we'll go through the whole Warren story, a shot to develop the enemy, send me help, all right? And they're going to come up, and Vincent's brigade, half of it's in the woods.
Right.
Right? Now, when the Confederates attack Big Round Top, Oates wants to stay up there, but he's got to chop all the trees down first. Right? Now, that's one end. The other end, Culp's Hill. You know, the cleared part of Culp's Hill today essentially was cleared then. It had been harvested. Right?
What's the clear part of Culp's Hill?
Well, okay, so you're going to drive up Slocum now. We come in off of the Baltimore Pike.
Right.
We got the road. We got Spangler Spring. That's clear.
Yeah.
We have Spangler's Meadow.
Right.
He's using that for grazing. Right. We start up the hill. On the left-hand side is another field that Spangler's using for grazing.
Right.
All right. As we go up the hill then, after we get past the Maryland Confederate Monument, all right, and then all that area like up toward the Hop Hill, it's like they cleared that for the park. Oh, no. It was cleared of woods at the time of the battle. That had been harvested. Enough so that Green's there. He's on the top of the hill. He's going to build this King Arthur Fort. And he's looking around, and Mr. Culp was nice enough to leave him the trees already chopped down there. So all Culp's trees go into the breastworks.
Okay.
Right? Which is also why the breastworks dissolve later, because Mr. Culp comes back and takes these trees back. Right?
Well, of course.
Of course, right?
You just let him borrow them.
Again, crop. All right, he would have sent that to Mamie McAllister's mill, not down the road too far.
Right.
A lumber crop. All right, so that's the hills. All right, so all this high ground can be used to advantage or disadvantage.
I want to use it to my advantage.
Right. Okay. But,
okay.
Well,
I thought you were giving me a choice.
No. But think about it. So you know, if you try, the woods are blocking your view.
Right.
All right. Now, do the Confederates use the woods on Oak Hill? Yes. Concealment. You know, the wood line today is not that far off. You know, when Rhodes comes up, his artillery comes out, his infantry is hiding in those woods. All right. And the 11th Corps and the 1st Corps kind of stretch out in that area. That area is kind of thin, you know, not their best planning, maybe. And we can debate that or whatever. But regardless, the Confederates are able to conceal themselves in those woods, right? At the same time, Iverson, he's coming out of the woods. If you go up the Mumminsburg Road, there's woods on both sides today. They can conceal in those woods, all right? And then as we explain high ground, why do we want it? What? Observation. Assuming we have a clear view of fire, and 1863, you kind of got to see what you're going to shoot at.
Right.
Right?
Helps, yeah.
Yeah, they got a couple of Whitworths. Well, just lob in that direction. It's going to hit something. Right? Somebody's going to get hit. We don't have a target, but let's go.
Right.
And then defense. Right? Again, you put your artillery there. Then your artillery has a clear field of fire if, in fact, you have that. Attack and defense. Right? At my age, it's always easier to attack downhill than it is to attack uphill. Right?
I think at any age.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah,
and it
yeah.
doesn't have to be that high. Right? It doesn't have to just high enough that the soldiers are firing down.
Right.
All right. And that should stop them.
Right.
All right. And so that's a part of the infrastructure. Right? They come in and they see a valley. All right. And they play fair. Both sides gets a ridge. Right? When this starts on the morning of July 2nd, the Union Army has Cemetery Hill and Cemetery Ridge, right? And by that, Culp's Hill too. The Confederates have Oak Hill and then Seminary Ridge, and they keep, as the morning goes on, they're expanding down
Right.
Seminary Ridge, right? And optimum range, both, it's a mile,
Yeah.
3/4 a mile,
Good
mile
for
and a
artillery.
quarter, your bronze guns can hit the other guy.
Yeah.
We can put all the guns in a party. Guys, we can use all of them this time, right? And so we have that. Now let's talk about roads.
Okay.
All right, and that goes back. So we have a settlement here in 1740, and the first road goes through, and it starts at York, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Right? And it's going to go to Hagerstown, Maryland. And incidentally, it comes through what is now downtown Gettysburg. Right? And the area, the houses on the, I would say, north side of York and Chambersburg Street.
Okay.
They would go there. Some of it still exists behind the alleyway or whatever. All right? With that thought, so we have that road. Of course, that's all about connecting to water anyway. Colonial times, transportation is water.
Sure, yeah.
Right? So that's what it's going to do.
So you got to stick along the water routes.
Yeah, so you have the Susquehanna River at York, and you have the Potomac River not that far from Hagerstown.
Okay.
All right? Now, remember I said about the trading post at Black's Gap?
I do
All right?
remember, yeah.
Okay? So the next road that's going to come up, all right, and it's going to be called Black's Gap. That's old Route 30 west from York. So I'm sorry, I did that. Black's Gap. Then you have old Route 30 west from York to what is now the Cashtown Gap, right? That York Road, right? I'm sorry, old 30 west. York, Pennsylvania 30 route goes to Abbottstown, and then it goes to New Oxford, and then it's Lincoln Highway, and then it's 394 Swift's Run Road, Black's Gap. All right, Hunterstown, Shriver's Corner. All right, the Mumminsburg Road. Right, Mumminsburg Road goes through Hilltown and to the Gaps. All right, and then old Route 30 and Route 30 Junction at Mount Newman. I didn't even know that was a.
No, I'd never
but
heard
it's there.
of it. Okay.
It's there. It's a neighborhood now. Chambersburg.
So where old 30 and new 30 meet
Right. Yeah.
on top of the mountain is called what?
Okay, so
Mount Newman?
that there's a neighborhood there, yeah, that's called Mount Newman.
Oh, the nudist colony.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Mount Nudeman.
Yeah. Oh, no, Newman, I'm thinking more like Seinfeld, right?
Yeah.
Your mail's stuck there. So, and try to run this again, because I know as I'm looking through this, my notes or whatever, that it got kind of confusing. So anyway, York, Pennsylvania, right? And it goes to the Cashtown Gap, and that is Route 30. Again, York to Abbottstown. Abbottstown to New Oxford. We can follow that. From New Oxford, it's going to take 394 Swift's Run Road to Hunterstown.
Okay.
All right. Great Conewago Church settlement there, right? And so that's that settlement's there before Gettysburg's there.
Okay.
All right. So
Yep.
So they get a road. They have more pull
Right.
at certain points, right? And then from Hunterstown, the road goes to Mummersburg. Goes through Hilltown, Mount Newman, and then to Chambersburg.
So
Okay,
keep going.
Yeah, and that's I say that is the York's Black's Gap Road.
Okay.
That's 1747. Right. The Nichols Gap Road is basically the same thing, right? But it is going to end up going through. Let's see how this goes. Black's Gap to Route 30. We'll get rid of that. Okay. So, starting at Lancaster, Pennsylvania, it takes the Black's Gap Road, Old Route 30. York, Pennsylvania, Abbottstown, New Oxford, continuing Swift Run, Black's Gap Road, follows Route 30 to Route 15 interchange. From there, the old pathway followed a southwest route along the high ground south of current 30 to Gettysburg. All right, so, and I should actually say for definition-wise, it's kind of east of it.
Yeah.
All right. Some of that roadbed still exists on the top of the Benner's Hill area where the Lady Farm is, without going too far into it. Okay. Crosses Rock Creek 200 yards north of current 116. Follows 116 to Fairfield.
Okay.
Black Horse Tavern, Marsh Creek Church, Fairfield Inn, right? You just won that. To Waynesboro Pike, Monterey Pass, and then turns south on 491 to Smithsburg, right? Which is the retreat route.
Yeah.
Right? And that road initially was called the Willoughby's Gap Road. And then, I don't know why yet, I'll get it. It's called the Nichols Gap Road after Willoughby's gone. And then Monterey Pass. When it gets, after the Battle of Monterey, everybody in America likes Spanish names.
Right.
Okay? Spanish names, French
They start
uniforms.
naming everything. Yeah,
that's it. All right.
Yeah.
So, and that's the long way or whatever. You know what? Oh my gosh. One of the guys who's passed away did an article for the Adams County Historical Society. It's one of the publications from 30 years ago. Woody Christ.
Uh-huh.
All right. And it was called Building a Battlefield. And it was about those two roads.
Okay.
All right. So that's cool. But you got 10 roads to and from Gettysburg. When it's all said and done, right, somebody, a cavalryman, rides up the Emmitsburg Road. All right. And so what does he see? All right. He notices that the Taneytown Road is not that far away from him. And he left Taneytown, but he went to Emmitsburg first, and now he's coming up. All right. So that's Beaufort. All right. Or a clock, if you want to do it this way, due north is Carlisle Road.
12 o'clock.
12 o'clock, right? And then if I'm moving around, 1 to 2 o'clock is Harrisburg.
Right.
3 o'clock is York.
Uh-huh.
3:30, 4 o'clock's Hanover. And then the Baltimore Pike. And then a Baltimore Pike is
like
now
5 o'clock.
Yeah, 5 to 6, right? South, anyway. Baltimore Pike leads out south, but so does then Taneytown Road and Emmitsburg Road.
Well, they lead out south, but they diverge from south quickly.
Yeah, they all three of them.
Taneytown goes straight south.
Right.
I'm looking at the map behind you,
Okay.
and Baltimore goes southeast.
Right.
And
Emmitsburg is
southwest.
Right. But once we get to Emmitsburg, it makes a left turn, and then it's on 140, modern day 140 to Taneytown. All right, now let's bring this up. You were on there. What's unique about that is that is a finished road.
Macadamized?
Well,
or
Telfordized. All right, but it's not gutted. Right? The Taneytown Road, Emmitsburg Road. Emmitsburg Road, 60 years old from from Gettysburg to Emmitsburg.
Right.
Right? But it is a dirt road that they've been using for 60 years, and it's all rutted.
Okay, gotcha.
Right? Once you get to Emmitsburg, though, that's not the case. All right? And so what I'm saying is that once you get to Emmitsburg, you've got a good road for artillery to Baltimore.
Yeah.
All right.
To Gettysburg.
Yeah. So okay, all three of the roads. Baltimore Pike is hardtop.
The Pikes.
Right, Pike. All right. Tawnytown Road is hardtop at Tawnytown out.
Okay.
All right. Emmitsburg Road, Emmitsburg, and then to Tawnytown, and that's hardtop there too. I'm not sure about the part between Tawnytown, but that's Maryland.
Well, if it's
140.
anything like today, Maryland has the better roads than Pennsylvania.
Well, I don't want to go into any state arguments.
Well, I'll give you that one. Usually I won't say a lot of good things about Maryland, but that's one thing I'll give you guys.
And then there's a Mason-Dixon line and a war starts, and
Well,
right.
we don't need to get into that, but you do have the better roads.
All right, so, and then coming around, we've got the Fairfield Road, the Chambersburg Pike, and the Mummasburg Road. And the Mummasburg Road is a finished road also.
Okay.
It has a toll house that still exists.
Where is that?
You
Is it
have
the
to,
one on the corner of Hersridge Road?
No, that one is the Chambersburg. All right, so
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
okay,
Yeah,
so toll booths that still exist.
yeah.
All right, if I'm on the Chambersburg Road,
Route 30.
Route 30, all right, and I leave the guide station
Yes.
because I always stop to use it.
Sure.
Right? Yeah. Don't pass it if you don't have to.
Right.
Okay, especially at my age.
Yep.
But if you go down at Willoughby Run, on the other side, there's a nice house there.
Yep.
That's where the toll house was. Maybe some of that house is still part of that. Maybe.
Yeah. So
Okay.
there's that little stone house right at the bridge.
Yeah, right at the bottom. Yeah, right. Okay, now, if I go out to Mummasburg Road, all right, so now I'm at the college, right? And I have to go down and make a right turn at the stop sign. And
It's College Road there, and then when you get out of town,
the
it turns to
cafeteria.
Yeah,
right turn to
yeah.
the cafeteria. All right.
or College Avenue.
Yeah, College. And then I think it's the house on the right-hand side. All right. It does have a black sign in the front yard that says toll house. So it is marked.
So before you even leave, wait.
Oh, yeah. As soon as you're out of Gettysburg, let's get a toll. Yeah. But actuality.
But you're a good distance out of Gettysburg back in those days at that point.
Well, yeah.
But wait, hold on.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out what house it is. Is it the White House on the corner just before the tennis courts? Like on the corner of Broadway?
Yeah, it's before the tennis court.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
it's all they're all before. All the houses are before.
I think it's white. All right.
It's a frat house now.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where no, actually, I think that house is a private ownership, not a frat house. The house where it is.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure that is because I met the couple that lived there.
Oh, okay.
All right, but I forget, but it's there. But the Mummasburg Road kind of comes in.
Yeah.
All right, and it turns south into town, and it's right there. All right, and it's on the Warren map. That the name of the farmhouse that's there is on the Warren map.
Okay.
But remember, okay,
Nestle. It's probably Nestle, right?
Yeah.
Nestle Toll House.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That too.
Yeah.
But let's. What does that road look like? That road in 1863 starts on Carlisle Street.
Yes.
All right. Below the coffee shop that was burnt out or whatever.
The ugly mug that was in the vape shop.
Right. So the road
that was right across from the frat house that burned down.
Yeah. So there's a road there that's diagonal.
Yeah.
Or you go to the college and you're standing at the really cool main gate, and you look across the street and there's a road at a diagonal. That's the Mummasburg Road.
So it's called Mummasburg Street. So I'll give you a more specific example or direction. You go to West Water Street. And there is one side street on West Water Street. It's Mummasburg Street. And it's weird because it's at an angle, whereas basically every other street in town is on a grid.
Right.
Right? They're all right angles. But this goes diagonally because that's the original Mummasburg Road.
Right.
And if you look at a map at that road, a straight line right into what is now the Mummasburg Road, straight line back to the Carlisle Road.
Right.
And the old Harrisburg Road, go ahead.
Yeah, did the same thing.
Yeah.
And of course, the college, when they built the college up in 1900s, late 1900s, then that road gets squared away.
Yeah.
All right, but that's a straight shot at the time of the battle.
Right.
Also, what's there? The college is there. So as soon as you pass the college is the toll road. At the toll house across the street area, there was a schoolhouse. Mm-hmm. All right. Now, the Washington Street went to the intersection of the Mummersburg Road and did not go past that at that time, which also meant it
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
brought
Yeah.
it to the gate of
Actually,
the college.
I'm looking at it on the map too. There you go.
Okay,
Yeah.
brought to the gate of the
Yeah.
college. All right, and so when we don't think about it, the big and Dilger's battery and von Almsberg's brigade are their last position on July 1st is in that area, right, which is now college building.
Right.
All right, so you got that. So anyway, you've got all of these, and so when this happens, Buford arrives the day before the battle, right, and essentially he has patrols out on all these roads, but his forces are. Devon's brigade is in the area where the Oak Ridge Tower is today. All right. And Gamble's brigade is McPherson Farm area. Right. And of course, they're all 1 ridge and 2 ridge and 3 ridges out. They're on all of these roads except for the 3 going south. They're not on the Baltimore Pike. They're not on the Tawnytown Road. Not on the Emmitsburg Road. But of course, up and down the Emmitsburg Road is all kinds of activity.
Right.
Right. So it's not really a patrol. It's just all these things happening, And, of course, they're rightly so because the Confederates are going to use all those roads. All right. So use of the roads. It's the night of July 1st. It's been a bloody day. All right. Battle-wise, July 1st at Gettysburg is what? 12th overall casualties in the Civil War?
It's like 17th or 18th.
Well, just one day.
Just one day.
Yeah, guys, or whatever. But okay, so it's further down.
But it's up there.
Right, it's up there, right? And I'm just saying that 15,000 casualties. And the Confederates control, obviously, the Chambersburg Pike, right? They now have control the Fairfield Road. In the morning, they didn't. Double days on the Fairfield Road until the Confederates get that far.
Right.
Right? They control the Mummersburg Road. All of Rhodes' hospitals are there. They control the Carlisle Road. And we go again, Ewell's hospitals are starting to fill in there. They control the Harrisburg Road. Not listed at 10, they control the Hunterstown Road. Right? And we'll go back to Hill observation on that. And they control part of they control the York Road. They control part of the Hanover Road. They control the Hanover Road up to Wolf's Hill. And the Union Army controls it on the other side. That's why they put the Stonewall Brigade there, because there's no Confederate cavalry to go. One of those observation things that I was thinking about, it just came to me. So you're on the top of Barlow's Knoll, right? And from Barlow's Knoll, you have a view to Oak Hill, right? The other way, woods, power lines. The only thing that's clear is the power line from the Harrisburg Road to the York and Hunterstown Road. Okay, the Hunterstown Road there. Okay, all right. So,
Yeah.
All right. Nobody says anything. Confederate cavalry is on the Hunterstown Road when Early attacks. Right. That's in symbolism. That's kind of Early's battle line. I mean, he's coming further, and he's coming in, and then he's going to swing into town, into the the avenue.
The Weiss Market.
No, yeah, the Weiss Market. Stop for lunch, and then keep going, and he's going to end up with Coster at Coster Avenue.
Coster Avenue. Yeah.
But no, Coster Avenue is half of the brigade's battle line, probably.
Right.
All right. But I want to think about this when you're out there. Think about that in town. You're looking toward town behind you, and it's that short thing, right? And Early's line is the power lines. He's stretched out there to where the cavalry is on his flank.
Yeah.
And somebody will argue about the distance, but the cavalry's on the Hunterstown Road, right? We know that's 2nd Maryland and maybe White's Comanches,
Right.
Right, 35th,
Right.
All right, and that's the left is there.
Well,
That's all over the fields.
It's interesting too, and it's hard to get a sense of that. I was just out at
Yeah.
Coster Avenue a couple of weeks ago with some friends, and it's hard to get a sense of exactly where you are and
Right.
where everything is during the battle,
Right.
because everything that wasn't That neighborhood wasn't there. Those trees weren't there.
Right.
So it's hard to picture it, and it's hard to see where you fit into the whole thing.
And then,
but you know what's interesting though, is if you go out to the Giant, right, and you're standing in the parking lot and you look towards the sunset, you are looking at Oak Hill. You can see Oak Hill.
right.
And you can and if you recognize certain steeples and rooftops of town, you can kind of piece things together. Now you're not going to be able to necessarily pick out Coster Avenue.
Right. And you're on a top of a hill.
Yeah.
Right. And it gets kind of like mixed in as Wolf Hills kind of expands that way. Of course, that's where the Wolf Farm is. Right. That's where Letterman was. No, the Wolf Farm.
The Wolf Farm is at Giant?
Yeah. Well, yes, it would have been. If you are behind the Giant, like you go up to the water tower, like you got lost.
Yeah.
Right. and the Wolf, toward town, the Wolf Farm's there.
Okay.
Right. Or you go look at the pictures. Right.
Yeah.
All right. And that's why they use that farm site. Right. I mean, that's why it gets used for. That's 10th Cavalry before the over the winter time. All right.
Yeah.
And they don't see this, but. The Confederate artillery is all banged up on July 2nd. So that area between the Giant and the Sheets, that's all, backwaters of the Confederate Army trying to recover from, right? Three of the houses become aid stations, if not actually hospital sites, right? Because they're doing surgery there. And then pushing them up the road, up the Hunterstown Road, where they feel safer. All of Johnson's division hospitals up the Hunterstown Road. All right, and getting out toward water sources too. So you got all of that, right? But you have that view of these lines, or even if you're at the McDonald's, right? And McDonald's parking lot is all surrounded by trees. None of that's there,
right?
Right? I mean, that's all clear. That's all Hayes and Avery coming into town, right?
It's so hard to imagine, that any of these places that we're talking about. The view shed is completely different back then. I mean, not just because of development, but the lack of trees, That's why I find it funny when people, when the park, was it 20 years ago or so, when they started to clear trees.
2010.
Yeah, when they started, no, it was before that. Yeah, but yeah. When they started to clear trees out, people who use the park for other than historic purposes.
Yeah.
They were, the trees, we need more trees, not less trees, blah, blah, blah. It's like, do you realize how many more trees we have today than we ever had since Europeans came over here? Because we don't use them the way we used to anymore. We now they're ornamental. You know what I mean?
So, and here's fun and side note. So, Park Commission reports.
Mm-hmm.
And now to be 1915 into the 30s, right? And you start looking at them. What's just been invented? Boy Scouts, right? And so the report going to the War Department is they're so proud that the Boy Scouts planted 15,000 trees on West Confederate Avenue this year, right? All these places that, and now they're the Weichert Farm, right? Not the Weichert Farm that but the Timbers Farm, I should say. That area, the Boy Scouts planted all that. Boy Scouts planted all the Pitzer stuff all along there. And that's in those reports. And again, and it gets worse in the 30s. The park superintendent in the 30s, it doesn't really like all these monuments. Can he put bushes in front of them? He sends a request to get money to put bushes in front of the monuments.
I don't understand that. But there's a very clear mission that the park has always had. And what is the language? Is something if a veteran were to come back 100 years from now, he'd know exactly where he was standing.
Right.
Something like that. Right. They very quickly lose sight of that. The minute there's a new administration, it's it's my
and here goes
pet project.
Okay, depression. That's it. Roosevelt has
Yes,
to do
I think
something.
they're all severely depressed.
Yeah, that too. But Roosevelt has to cut costs. So his cost cutting is to put the military parks in with the nature parks. And so now that's going to create the debate. The mission of the military park is to preserve the battle, like you said. The mission of the nature park is to preserve the nature.
Right.
All right. And so, my wife, the bird person,
Right. I know. This is the thing.
You know how that is at our house.
I know. I know. It's tough.
And you're right. They started, I guess.
I wouldn't go around calling my wife a bird brain like you just did, but I understand.
Say that.
What? You said my wife the bird brain. What?
I said, okay. But yeah, I guess it's about 2000 they started cutting trees down. By 2010, and Superintendent Latcher has done a great job, and we have all the view sheds back again. Right,
we did.
Right, and of course now they're all gone.
We're losing them. They're still there. But.
And another thing too is that one of their answers, and I kind of understand this, is erosion on the streams, and so they leave the tree lines and so on go up along the streams.
That's fine
for the erosion. That's
the streams are low.
Well, so we went through. So we went through the roads, and I think everybody, the 10 roads to Gettysburg.
Wait, roads. There was some a long time ago, years ago. You told me the original Baltimore Pike, south of town. Okay.
Yes.
Which I guess is the only part of it. The bed, the path that it's on today, is not the original road bed.
That's correct.
If you're looking from south to north, it's to the right of it.
Yes.
And now, did I get this right? That some of the park roads on Culp's Hill, I want to say it's Williams, but I might be wrong.
Yeah. So I'll give you a rough outline of this.
Okay.
All right. First off, why is that road built? 1769, and an Indian raiding party came into Fairfield, French and Indians from Pittsburgh. Okay. Now I get an awful lot of visitors from Pittsburgh, so I like Pittsburgh people, right? Yeah. It went from Baltimore, and it went to the Mummersburg Road that we know today. And so it went up Carlisle Street to Mummersburg Road, as you described earlier, makes a left at Mummersburg Road, and goes to the trading post, Black's Gap. And from there to the right, that road, Black's Gap Road, will take you to Carlisle. The Indian fort at Carlisle to protect the settlers in 1769 is now the Army War College.
Okay.
All right. Now, the road it's kind of fast. It's a colonial road building. So, and I'm going to go to, it's 1800, maybe it's 1815, 1818 without having the notes in front of me, but it's in that time frame. Before 1820, let's say. All right. They take the road, which is at the bottom of the hill because you don't want the horses going uphill, and they move the road to the top of Cemetery Hill where it is today. Okay? Now, that road, that Baltimore Pike, until 1820, was the bottom of the road where Wainwright Avenue is today.
It's the bottom of the hill.
The bottom of the hill, rather. The bottom of the hill. Not quite. Wainwright Avenue is actually built to the left of the roadbed.
Yes.
All right, so they're side by
so
side.
It's the other side of that stone wall is the original roadbed.
Right, it's there. All right, so now.
But now going back, though, south.
So
going south, where does that cut into? Does it go up over Stevens Knoll or down around?
Let me get, okay, so just to make it confusing. All right, today.
Just to make it confusing?
Yeah. All right, today, the Jenny Wade House, the Gray House, Wade Avenue.
Yeah.
All right, and into the alley. That was one of the extensions of that road. But at 1820.
Say.
Okay, so Jenny Wade House.
Oh, Jenny Wade's birthplace.
Yeah. Gray House.
Okay.
Wade Avenue. Wade Alley. There's Wade Alley there.
Right.
Kind of wide, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right, because that was the road entrance into town at one point. But that is the last generation before 1820. At one point, it was at an angle.
Wait. Let me clear this up for people trying to follow along. So if you take Wainwright Avenue into town, past the football field,
right?
Okay, and then you get to Lefevre Street, and you cross Lefevre behind Mr. G's. You're on the alley.
Right.
At the top of the hill, there's a little side street, but it's pretty wide. It's what we call a wide street. And if you might know it better from the Baltimore Street side, which has the Maryland Sutler on one corner and Jenny Wade's birthplace, which is it Reed Cider still or Reed?
I don't know who's
no,
in
it's
there
like a ghost tour now. I think.
Yeah, maybe.
So, but it's a wooden gray house, and then of course Maryland Sutler.
Yeah.
That little side street, you're saying, is the
One of the entrances.
One of the original entrances into town.
Right.
The last
Before 1820.
Before 1820. But that doesn't mean though that the Baltimore Street didn't go down as far as it went past there, right?
Well, it was at an angle. All right. So you're going to build like the Weinbrenner House.
Uh-huh.
All right. So at one point, the road goes from the Lefevre Street crossing, all right, at an angle. Now we're getting into Tim Smith stuff here.
Yeah, but I love this stuff.
I know.
I love the old
But
roads.
it was at an angle, all right. And of course, they built those lots on that angle. Weinbrenner House is built, his tannery's built, and then so that straightens the road out. All right, and then eventually 1800, even a little bit of the road that's there, they build the Weinbrenner House, and I think they called it, the neighborhood was called Sleepy Hollow. Right. And then finally, that road connects with the Baltimore Pike and goes straight into town for Baltimore Street we know today.
Okay.
Got it?
So, okay. And then okay. We'll leave it at that. Everybody's eyes are going cross trying to figure this out. I know.
And that's
I'm sorry.
that's definitely Tim Smith. That he's studied that. He's give
What's
great explanations.
What map shows these roads?
Some of them are still floating around. I guess the Historical Society.
Does the 1858 county map have that?
No, because this is all 1820 or before. So you got to get.
Okay.
And there is one or two.
So where do you find that?
Well, again, and let me say something else. These roadbeds, right? And there's another one. Howard Avenue is on an old roadbed.
Oh, no kidding.
Okay,
Farm lane or
No, there was actually Table Rock Road.
Yeah.
All right, and Harrisburg Road where the cross is. All right, if you draw a line, it goes to Howard Avenue.
No kidding.
All right, and
so,
it would have came from the gatehouse on the Mummersburg Road. If you went right, you went to Table Rock.
Okay. So
okay. Now, okay. When you go into this stuff, all right. And now I got back to what you really wanted, which was Baltimore Pike.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So you're at Lefevre Street, right? You're on Wainwright Avenue. You have to walk that way. You can't drive anymore, right? And then you get to the Culp's Hill exit, right? And the stone wall, the corner of the stone wall there. All right. We believe that between Slocum statue and that wall, the road extended, right? And it goes through that area. And then it gets to about where the bathroom is on Culp's Hill, right? And then the regimental position where the 13th New Jersey is and a Wisconsin regiment and the Indiana and 2nd Mass, all right? It goes around there because that's McAllister's Woods. And it went down the hill, cross Gwynn Run.
You're talking Carmen Avenue?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, because that all would have been on left, the woods. Okay, so it's going to go on the south side of McAllister's Woods, which is Carmen Avenue.
Okay.
All right, goes through the woods there to McAllister's Mill and crosses at McAllister's Mill, right? And then once it crosses there, it turns right. That part of the road still exists and went to where the current Baltimore Pike is today and kind of dog laid out. All right. Now, what I want to say about this is, and I just mentioned Highland Avenue, right? We talked about that on Wolf once, but some of this road still exists. We have McAllister's Mills and the story of his son and escaped slaves using that road.
Okay.
All right. And Confederates.
So by that point, it's no longer the Baltimore Pike.
No, but the road's
it's still there.
Right. The roadbeds are still there. All right.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Right. And so the Army is going to use these old roadbeds too.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
All right. Okay. Because, there's a kind of a dirt road from Mummersburg Road. All right. And Mummersburg Road there's a farmhouse that no longer stands, but the park has a grove there. And Schertz is on top of that farmhouse. Right. But if you take that dirt road that's not there anymore, we call Howard Avenue, that takes you to Barlow's Knoll. All right. And it doesn't, the rest of it, that has to, whenever that disappears, that probably has to disappear when they build the Harrisburg Road.
Right.
All right. And so that farmland becomes a farmland, which is also why nobody uses it anymore. The farmer doesn't need it. That's why he'll sell it to the Park Service.
Okay.
Or the War Department.
Yeah.
I'll get a couple dollars out of the War Department for it.
Sure.
Here, put your monuments here. Give me $50 or whatever. Right.
Right.
All right. So some of these, and Wolf's Hill, right, and Dean. and what a treasure he is.
Yeah.
And
Dean Schultz.
Yes, and Dean Schultz, and you go on a walk up there, and he takes you on the old farm lanes around in these woods. Those woods weren't there. Those were all farm fields, mostly tawny farms, right? Those were all their farm fields on this nice hillside, so they got a good sunlight and everything else. But those lanes, and so the Confederates can use them, and they do. Not as much as they should have, but they do.
Yeah.
All right. And that's also what the Union Army is trying to block. You don't get this whole thing of they put Neal's brigade up on top of Neal Avenue. All right. But what's on the bottom of the hill is your 16th PA monument.
Right.
Because the cavalry vignettes going there. All right. And before that, they had Massachusetts regiment from maybe Schweitzer's brigade.
Okay.
Right. But anyway, a 5th Corps Massachusetts regiment's there on July 2nd to guard the road so the Confederates don't come that way because, right on the other side of the Hanover Road, the Stonewall Brigade is giving the 10th New York a hard time. Right. So, they're trying to keep the Confederates on that side of the road so the 5th Corps can use it. And the 6th Corps.
Right.
Right. To bring them in because you got to bring the 6th Corps in too. And they're going to take up more space than the 5th Corps did.
And you also have to protect Rock Creek.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. You need that.
Right. But also remember at the end of day 1, the Confederates have the upper part of Rock Creek.
Yeah, they do.
Right? So, again, I didn't kind of bring that in, but that gives hospital sites for Ewell. Right? And then some of the streams north of town that they didn't get involved in. Right? And properties and farmers up there. There's got to be a water source by the Shalers farms right up that end. And that gets all of that.
So,
that's amazing.
It is amazing. And so let me try to boil down the road point here. The roads definitely favor the Union position in this case, right?
Yeah.
The Confederates, they have the exterior line, so that makes it difficult for them to move troops from one end to the other. But the roads also make it kind of difficult to do that. They have connecting roads between the main ones, but the Union roads. The roads behind the Union line are all converging on the Union Center.
Right. And then look what happens. July 2nd, the Confederates get the Emmitsburg Road to an extent.
Right.
All right. Also, I should just mention this. Rock Creek in particular, pay attention to the fords. The farmers' fords.
Right.
Because there's like a couple farms that have the farm properties on both sides of the creek. Farmers using that back and forth. All right. The Union Army, the medical department ends up using them. But they could have used them better, right?
How so?
How so?
That's what I just asked.
So I'm Dan Sickles, and I have two brigades from each of the divisions here at Gettysburg before dawn. He leaves 2 brigades and 2 batteries. This is cool logistics. And what are we going to get? We're going to get Burling and de Trobriand, if I got that right. I'm not going to remember what the 2 batteries are right now. But they arrive at the intersection of the Emmitsburg Road and the Peach Orchard, or the Wheatfield Road. And the nose of that arrives at about 9 a.m. We know that because Buford wanted to leave because he's in the fields across the street at the Longstreet Tower.
Right.
And the roads are now blocked, right? And so it takes 2 hours. So what it gives us is a brigade and a battery. It takes 2 hours to cross a point.
Okay.
I'm sorry, 1 hour for one brigade and one battery, 1 hour to cross a point. So you stand there and you're counting. It's 2 brigades, and behind that's wagons. Anywhere down the line on the Emmitsburg Road, he could have taken Ridge Road, right, and the wagons could have crossed Rock Creek and been in the background at any given point in time before this is all set up. Instead, they're on the Emmitsburg Road. And eventually, not Johnson, but Wilcox's guys and others have to see him.
Right.
Right? And they see him on the road. And you get what you get out of that and how far that goes. But that certainly says that should have been a flag that the Union Army has given away to the Confederates that the Union line is further down than they thought.
Right.
There's activity there, right? There's a whole bunch of things. But
But that doesn't get back to Lee.
Right, it doesn't. Right, and Sickles just thinks I got the road. There's no Confederates around.
Right.
Finally, he finds Wilcox, who is not the attacking force. Right, and starts a fight with Wilcox. And to me, I find it ironic, that then the whole First Corps comes and slams into him, right? And only because he found the end of Hill's guys, thinking they were the attack, and of course they weren't.
Right. Okay.
But again, you have the roads we know today, and everybody gets that. But there's also all these other roads that they can use, right? And the biggest one of those are the two on Wolf's Hill. And the Union Army uses the one on their side. The Confederate Army doesn't use the one on theirs. And look, that's Johnson, maybe Johnson's got the Stonewall Brigade, one of the great what ifs, right?
Yeah, right.
He just bounced up the road there. He just comes up the Benner farm, Benner McAllister farm, that road there. He just uses that, and oh my gosh, he's in the Union rear.
Right.
And Johnson's not looking at it per se at the time, because his goal is Cemetery Hill, and he doesn't really care about what he hears on his left. He'll get to them later, right?
Sure.
Now, so you have to explain why did they so July 1st happens. Why did they stay? Why is the Union Army entrenched? Because Meade has to defend Washington, D.C. If you take the Baltimore Pike, it's 60 miles to Baltimore. Okay, make a right-hand turn, it's 30 miles to D.C. Or you go to Emmitsburg or Taneytown and you take 140, right? And you take modern-day 140 and the same thing, right? You're 60, 70 miles into West Baltimore, and then you just turn south on the Washington Pike.
Yep.
Right? So Meade has to defend those three roads.
Right.
He can get rid of the other ones. The other stuff is not, but those three roads, losing that part of the Emmitsburg Road after Sickles, that's a problem, or that part of it. We digress. Let's talk. Okay, let me go through some buildings. How much time we have?
We have give it 15 minutes because
Okay.
I'm feeling an urgent pressure on the inner walls of my bladder.
All right, so here's what we did.
Yes.
All right, we did hills, we did streams, right? Nature did that. Man does roads. What else does man do? All right,
Railroads.
the farms,
Oh, the
railroads.
farms.
Yeah, let's
The
do
farms.
that. Yeah, we got public buildings. All right, and look, we can go through, and I've talked about this with hospitals. All the public buildings, the churches in town, right? The school, the prison, the courthouse. But you know what else? Observation. We have an account of a soldier in the Bucktails that tells us the Confederate officers on July 3rd during Pickett's charge went into the cupola of the Catholic Church, which would have given them a clear view, right?
Yeah.
We know that on the top of Albertus McCreary's house, right? Here's, you got a 13-year-old kid or whatever. He's up on the rooftop next to his chimney watching Pickett's charge.
Yeah.
Right, so you have those places. Pennsylvania Hall.
Which, have you ever been into the cupola of the Catholic Church or any of the churches? I mean, can you get up into any of it? I would love to see what you can see.
I haven't. I know that Tim and Gary had gotten on top of the Farnstock house.
Yeah.
All right, and they've done some views there. And you can, in the seminary is going to give you that view. All right, but once you get into town, then you have a good view of the Confederate line, and you have a view of the front of Cemetery Ridge. You can't see what's behind it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Even then, I don't know if somebody from, I guess somebody could. Somebody from the college or the seminary should be able to see the signal station, if not the one on Cemetery Hill, the one on Powers Hill. They'd be able to see that. But anyway, all those buildings are infrastructure. They're placed for the wounded, and then also observation, right? Then I would say, again, all the schools, you have all of those, and again, hospital sites, amongst other things else. Township schools that we don't think about. Adam Butt Farm, Samuel Pitzer Farm, Henry Pickering Farm, Newville Road Schoolhouse on the Haggerty property. That's near the, that's all the Newville Road is what, north of Chambersburg? north of Carlisle. White Run Schoolhouse, Pleasant Grove, Dr. Uncle's Schoolhouse on the Tawnytown Road, south of town, Emmett's Road Schoolhouse. So there's other places here. Those all end up being concentrations for hospital sites and aid stations, but not the main hospitals.
Okay.
Industries. Stone yards, Powers, Mills, and Cannon. Carriage shops. Tanneries. Winebrenners and Rupps. All right? 3 tanneries. 1 Winebrenner, 2 Rupp tanneries. McAllister's Mill. Lumber and grist. Bream's Mill. Hospital site. Myers Lumber Mills there. And grist mill. That is all the area south of Black Horse Tavern. On the road there and private property. The blacksmith shops, the cabinet shops. You know, the Confederates make coffins in some of these shops.
Yeah.
All right. Now the shoes. All right. Every part-time farmer in the 1858 map tells everybody advertised that he'll make shoes for you. So they think that there's this big shoe industry here.
Right.
All right. And it's more like dad trying to make $5. Okay.
Right.
Menchie's pottery shop. Right.
So Menchie Springs is over by Wainwright Avenue, right? And
yeah.
then,
And
so where's the Menchie house?
Washington Street. Big. It's a long white house today, and it's marked.
So why does he get a spring named after him if his house is?
He owns that. Oh no, he doesn't. Okay. So I'm going to quote Tim again. All right. So the properties on, they're really cool. The properties on Cemetery Hill.
Yeah.
And you got those nice stone walls.
Yeah.
All right. So what's happening there is the owners are renting those out. Now, Menchie owns 2 spots, right? 2 of those yards. Where the school and the wooded property is, Menchie owns that.
Okay.
Okay? Raffensperger, the original owner of Hill, owns the property where Menchie's spring is.
Got it.
So the army screwed that up. Okay.
When they were putting the signs up?
Yeah. So there is a spring on the Raffensperger property.
So,
and on the Menchie's property in the woods, there's also a spring there too.
Right.
All right.
So before you move on though, you, just in case people didn't catch that, those fields just south of the monuments on the top of East Cemetery Hill, those open fields there that have the nice stone wall, marking them out.
Yeah.
You said those were leased. And those were leased by people who lived in town or something, and they wanted to grow a crop or something.
Right. So
and
Menchie owns his. I'm not sure who's where on what.
Right.
All right. But the property, and so we're going to find the properties that exist between the Baltimore Pike and the Culp Farm. Right. And the same thing on the area behind Colt Park. Right. Those were farm areas too with stone walls that were also rentals. So in town, you don't have enough room for things. But if you're industrious, you can rent a spot outside town. You can keep your horses there. Maybe you grow a corn crop.
Yeah.
Right? Or a hay crop. That way you don't have to buy hay from somebody else.
Right.
And it's all those possibilities. Again, hay is gas in 1863.
Right.
Right? And anytime there's a drought.
Could you imagine having your own oil refinery and you can make gasoline in your own backyard?
That's kind of what it is.
Yeah.
And of course, in some, they think that those horses are still making gas today. That's all right. As we go along with it. But a cabinet shop, shoe shops, tin shop. There's a tin shop in town. All right. Pottery shop, gas works. Right. And then the hotels. All right. And
so all of these things, except maybe the gas works, the Confederate Army could use.
Right. You take all
the tools. They could use
tools.
Blacksmith supplies. They could use all this stuff.
Right. And again, besides those shops, the gas works considered a town thing. You're not really making the neighbors quite as mad, I think. And you can get all your tools from there, too.
Right.
Right, for now that stuff.
Right.
Battlefield Farms, oh my gosh, we won't go through that. Forney, Hagee, Blotcher's, but all those Battlefield Farms have a water source.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and that's why the medical department goes there, right? When this is done, the Army's not necessarily inside these houses. Most of the time, they're outside under the eaves of the barn, right? With exceptions, right? And we have proof of that. Not Benner, the Lady Farm.
Okay.
Right. Okay. So they've got blood stains in there that we can go from that. But anyway, all of the battlefield farms, we know that those are all sites that could come up. They could come up on the test. All this stuff could especially the farms.
Right.
Right in these buildings.
Yeah.
All right. Crops out in the field: corn, wheat, rye, hay, oats. orchards. Apples, they're green, you give them to horses. Hard peaches, right? So the peaches are just coming in. They're not really great to eat, but they make good pies.
Okay.
Right? Okay, so there you go. And the cherries are good. Pears, plums, and grapes, not that much. All right? Livestock, horse, cows, pigs, sheep. All right? That's all infrastructure. That's all thing that both armies, particularly Confederate Army, can use.
Sure.
Right? The more of that he can find, he can do it day 4, day 5.
Right.
So that's part of it. And then that road is road south. I just to go back on that again when I thought about that. Day 2 and day 3, the Confederates want those roads. All right. And so Lee's plan is knock them off of Cemetery Hill when we got those roads.
Right.
All right. Longstreet says, let's go to Emmitsburg and take that road instead. Okay. And then I won't have to, signal stations. We went through from the seminary, Pennsylvania College, and there is a good, one of the papers, one of the War Department papers, and then it goes into Signal Corps. So if you just search Union Signal Corps and go over it, it's an interesting read on how they use the land. Right,
Okay.
so you got that. All right.
All right. Give me one more there, Ken.
One more. Let me
One
see what we
more
got.
exciting list of things.
Okay. And I think that the railroad is where I want to go.
All right.
All right.
good.
And I'm not going to do a whole lot of this, but I think I have someplace here where this. One quick find here. All right. So, the railroads to Gettysburg. All right. So, Thaddeus Stevens owns the railroad from Hanover Junction to Gettysburg.
Okay.
All right. He's building a railroad from Gettysburg. I guess he's planning on going to his ironworks and then Hagerstown. All right. And that section, the stonework's been done, but the rails aren't. And of course, he's old, he's sick, and he's kind of busy. Right.
Right.
He's signing the checks for the war. Now, the railroad before the battle goes something like this. And I know I had it here. The railroad goes to Hanover Junction. And then at Hanover Junction, the rail line goes to the North Central Railroad, Baltimore.
Okay.
All right. And goes to York. And then at York, you can catch the railroad across the bridge to Philadelphia.
So when Lincoln comes up.
Lincoln comes up this way. He goes from Washington to Baltimore.
Okay.
And I think he has to change trains.
I think he does too.
Right, because and then
somewhere, I don't know if it's there.
Yeah, it gets from the Beano line to the North Central line.
Okay.
All right, it takes the North Central, and that pretty much goes through Baltimore County, Cockeysville, and so on. All right, and then that's going to take him to Hanover Junction.
Okay.
All right, there it is, the junction of the railroads.
And then so there he changes trains
and take
then
to the
comes
Gettysburg
here.
Railroad, and he comes here.
Okay.
Okay. So that's his routes, and that's what I was looking for in my notes on some of those, because I had a couple other things here. The railroad goes from Baltimore to Frederick, right? And the railroad goes from that line, can get you to south of Westminster.
Okay.
And stops, it's a railhead at Westminster. Meade's going to make great use of that.
Yeah.
All right. Once he's no longer, after July 5th, he's already told the cars are coming up to Frederick, because that's Frederick, because he's going there. All right. And, he's got it. That way he's on the outside of Lee, right? But they need those supplies.
Right.
Now, there is another line that doesn't come into this, but could have. And so that line from Frederick goes to Hagerstown. And I believe the line is active from Hagerstown, and it goes up the valley on the other side of South Mountain.
Okay.
All right. And that's going to go to Carlisle and Harrisburg. So I'm sure the Confederates tear up this end of it.
Yeah, of course.
All right. But here again, the magic of Haupt is that, he's here and he's saying, you got to get the Confederates out of the area so I can put the rail line back in from Hanover Junction to Gettysburg. All the rest has been fixed.
Mm-hmm.
He's fixed whatever Stuart's messed up to Westminster and so on. Right. And it takes him a couple of days.
Yeah. It's
That's
amazing
magic that he does that.
Yeah.
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 And that's all about the engineering. It also helps that he knows the area.
Right. Yes.
is very familiar with the area.
Yes.
All right. But I just wanted to point that out on what railroads are available. And so Meade needs those supplies, and the wagons aren't getting them to him fast enough. And that's why, some of all his wagons, except for Third Corps, just about, all their, the major part of their wagons are there at Westminster, so they can bring supplies up. Right? I think Sixth Corps has some of their wagons with them too, but they'll lead them on the other side of Route 15. Right? Maybe where they're going to have wagon storage past as we leave town, Baltimore Pike, past Wolf's Hill.
Okay.
And then where the outlets are.
Yeah.
I think the Sixth Corps, I think their wagons are stuffed out there.
It was a good parking lot there.
Yeah.
So.
And look, some of these are just one line in Connington. You get bits and pieces of stuff
right.
as I went through. And again, initially, I didn't think about this at first. I was going into the logistics. What's it going to take? And that becomes a problem. One of the reasons that Meade is sending troops from Gettysburg to Frederick is because that's where the food is. Right? So, some of his army is following the Fairfield Road. So we got Custer is going to attack, at Monterey Pass.
Yeah.
Right. And of course the Confederates, they're at Smithburg and so on. And then that's where Lee's retreat becomes an interesting study because that's logistics in reverse. But while Lee's leaving, then Meade has to extend his logistics. So he has to use all this infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the old National Road, Route 40, right? Old Route 40. He still has, all his troops from Baltimore hadn't met up.
Right.
Right. For example, Lockwood's brigade, right? There's a 2nd Maryland Eastern Shore.
Mm-hmm.
They just missed the boat. They don't show up until the 4th or 5th.
Right.
Right. Because it takes a couple of days to get them across. And then they, and I think they too, I don't know if they got a chance to, the 1st Maryland Eastern Shore, they got to take the train a little bit before they walked up, all right, out of Baltimore,
okay,
to try to catch up with things, which brings them here again on the night of July 2nd at sometime after dinner.
Okay.
And so that's it. Yeah. The railroads. What I hope I gave you this is, you're an officer, right? You know how to draw maps, and now you show up in this valley of this intersection of 10 roads, Gettysburg, and what can you use? Mm-hmm. What for your advantage? Either side. What can you use to your advantage?
Well, Ken, once again, you have blown our minds with your depth of knowledge and the way that you put it all together. I think we are better for it. Thank you very much, Ken.
My wife calls it brain sludge.
Brain sludge?
Yeah, what's going on up there?
Well, I won't deny that I wonder the same thing. But I do love listening to you talk, and I know the audience does too. I hope you all enjoyed this. Again, if you're watching it for free on YouTube, it's about to go behind the paywall over on Patreon, and it'll be out eventually. But go ahead and join us over there at patreon.com/addressing Gettysburg, especially if you're studying for the guide exam. Otherwise, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you, Ken, and we'll talk to you all next time. All right, we are done.
And in all honesty, all these little lists, something on each of those lists, she'll pick one thing. She will.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she's going to pick a road.